Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Illegal Contact Podcast. We are back here for week number 4. Can't believe it's been 4 weeks already, fellas.
I can't believe I've been here for 2 of them.
Wow.
That's
You
very
know more
true.
about sports than you think, Mike. Look at that.
This is just part of your education, Mike, to get you more involved. As Jared and Peyton are not here, you are becoming just our fill-in for this. So,
yeah, I should just put where it says like knows some about sports, like whoever's not here that week. I should just put their name in the parentheses, so it'd be like Mike Jared McCain or Mike Peyton McCain. Yeah, that way they're here in both name and spirit.
Yeah, you're a great sub-in, Mike. You just keep learning.
So if you say anything stupid,
more.
we could just blame
exactly.
Them,
and then like 6 weeks from now, like I can be like as Jared, I can say, oh, Clemson is the worst team in the world. And then like 6 weeks from now, you'd be like, Jared, remember that time you said Clemson was the worst team in the world? And he'd be like, I never said that. And you'd be like, but you did.
We have the tape. Exactly.
It
says your name right there.
Exactly.
Roll it back. Well, again, we are here again for number 4. I am Kyle the Pope. His nickname is now, I guess, going to be dubbed to be, along with Thomas, Christian, and as we just said, Mike knows some about Sport McCain, filling in for, I guess you're kind of filling in both for Jared and for Peyton this week. Christian was able to join us finally because his softball league, he had a game earlier, so it's good to have him here, but he's going to be a regular as much as possible, so we're happy to have you, like we said, Mike.
But did you win tonight?
I did. My team didn't.
That's a great attitude to have in a team sport. My team didn't win, but I won. The things you can say.
I'll just say as the pitcher, I pitched well. So
in slow pitch softball, very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Many strikeouts.
That's great.
Yes. Many errors, but it's okay. It's okay.
Does your league have that rule where if you hit a home run, it's an out?
We get 2. You get 2 home runs, then it's an out after.
It's an out. So you just gotta get really good at hitting that ball as far as possible without it going out of the park.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have that problem.
Yeah, I don't. Be straight up honest with that. Maybe when I lose another bunch of weight, when I get even more fit, then I'll be able to bring some of that back. But even when I was younger and more fit, I still couldn't hit a ball that deep. But well, we're going to have a great show tonight. Definitely going to be going over our college football as our first segment moving into here. We're bringing up a new segment where we are bringing in a guest picker. We'll be having Eric Rose joining us in a little bit to go over his picks for college football. And then obviously we'll roll into our NFL and have a great show. So let's go ahead and get started off then. Our college football segment of the Illegal Contact Podcast. So crazy week yet again. Crazy in different ways than week 1, but still a crazy week in college football. Lots of 3 big upsets for certain of Power 5 schools coming down, which we'll get into talk a little bit here. I'll go ahead and start off a little bit with Michigan State. It wasn't much of a game as far as the scoreboard would look, 52-0. They were able to put away who'd they play? Akron Zips. So scoreboard looked really good. I will say from my perspective as a fan, 52-0 did not feel like what that score should have been. I think that was a lot because their quarterback got hurt and he was dicing apart, and we were able to not let them score because they gave us 3 turnovers in our own territory. So that leaves me with a lot of concern moving into the game in Washington, which we'll get in our picks here in a little bit. I need to see especially a lot more out of Peyton Thorne. The offensive line actually looked even better this week and feels like they're coming along quite well. The defense, as I said, after week 1 of losing both Henderson and Snow, I'm still concerned there because, again, it felt like they were giving up way too many completions even against a lower opponent in Akron Zips. But Peyton Thorne has not looked fantastic. He didn't look great in the Peach Bowl, and he has not looked good in week 1, and he has not looked good in week 2. So going out to Washington and playing that game, not having him be on point, does concern me a little bit. But again, seeing some growth, excited for where the team goes. Hopefully, can still keep building and at least have somewhat of a reputable season as we move on. Went to the Liberty game on Saturday night. That was also fun. rains the entire time. It's how I celebrated my anniversary. So I have a lovely wife who chose to go to a college football game with me on our anniversary, and it was her idea. I did not even have to bring it up. She
Right
very
there.
much is.
Keep her.
Before we even started dating, we used to talk football all the time. I used to like quiz her on stuff like way back. This is like 15 years ago on football, like just what call would this be? What foul would this be? And we talk about football all the time. And then we got married, and she will watch Michigan State football with me, and she loves that. But like that's about as much as I could get as far as on TV goes.
Take it. I wish, take it and run with it,
Yeah. I'm very
rare.
blessed to have what I have.
Yeah.
So she's great. It was fun to go to the game with her. They'll celebrate our anniversary that way. Got to see the Flames win. Playing in the rain was obviously wet, but it was not cold, so I'll take that. Learned a few more things to that game, which we'll talk about here when it comes to our a little bit more as well too. But yeah, that's my side from a fan perspective for the week. Not a whole lot happened. I'm sure I'll have a whole lot more to say next week after going out and playing in Washington, as we'll learn first test finally for the Spartans on where they go. So, Christian, I talked a little bit about Liberty. You're a little bit more of our Liberty.
Yeah.
Liberty is your school. That is, you are 100% a Liberty fan. Me, Jared, Peyton, we're Liberty fans. We've all said
Do you not claim UNC at all, or is it all Liberty?
I mean, yeah, like if they were to play each other, like it wouldn't be a competition in my mind at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because
if that makes sense.
Because
so like I'll root for UNC, but Liberty is the main team for sure.
Yeah, see that's opposite for like me, Jared, and Peyton. We're all going to choose Michigan State, Clemson, Tennessee. Much as we love our alma mater and our school, I'm lifetime devoted into Michigan State football. I've only been devoted into Liberty football for 7 years, so
yeah.
And I think a lot of it for me is, growing up, like we moved to North Carolina when I was young, and so it was just kind of like you had to choose a team. Living in North Carolina, and so I grew up a huge UNC fan, absolutely. But I didn't have like that close connection per se. So it was basically like wherever I go to school, and that's my alma mater. Like that's going to be my team. So
we also, I think most of us went to school during the time of the, like, you may have lived here and you may have lived here and you may have rooted for this team, you may have rooted for this team, but you are now and forever a Liberty flame. And that should be the team you root for. And I'm with Christian. Like if South Carolina and Liberty play, it's a no-brainer. Like I'm going with South Carolina. But whoever Liberty is playing that day, other than South Carolina, I'll root for Liberty type of situation.
Okay. Well, so give us your input then, Christian, on you watched the Liberty game from TV. You probably saw more things than I saw from sitting. I mean, I was sitting down very low in the end zone, so I could not see other than looking on the screen sometimes to see what was going on. So.
I mean, I was on flight, so I coming back from Texas, so I didn't get to watch all of it. But that being the case, it's really impressive. First of all, just to talk about this defense, like they look good. They look really good. They've against Southern Miss forced 5 turnovers. Granted, that was the Frank Gore Jr. offense. Didn't really have a quarterback after the targeting penalty. So you could assess some of it to that. But this UAB team that is known for their rushing attack, and they have 2 really good backs. They fumbled it. I think all the turnovers were fumbles. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there was 1 pick. And they weren't just like, oh, it's wet out and the ball slipped out. They were like forced fumbles created by the defense. So they are really impressing me. They're up for a major challenge this week going against the Wake Forest offense. But that being the case, the defense is really solid. I think this Liberty team is going to be an under machine this year because of them and the shakiness of the offense. Talking about the offense, the pieces are there. I thought the line looked better this week. I think they're improving. I know they're still not great, but I think they're improving. And I think we'll continue to see that throughout the rest of the season, which was the
offensive line
issue.
did look better. I'm still concerned, but they did look better. Now,
I at least have
how much of that was Southern Miss was really good. how much of that at UAB didn't have as much pressure up front. We'll see.
And again, we'll see this week against an ACC team with a couple of really good dudes on the D line. But yeah, O-line looks better. Hopefully, we'll see. Salter, again, he's raw, but he has a lot of promise. Freeze was kind of harsh on him in the press conference this week. Feel like it was just a bit of motivation as well. He probably knows that's his buttons in a good way. But he's really impressive, and he knows how to make a play, like as we've called him, mini Malik, baby Malik, whatever it is. Like he's obviously completely his own guy, but there are a lot of similarities in their play, and he's quick as well. So he adds a huge dynamic to that offense that UAB really couldn't stop in the second half. That was another thing. The second half, like I thought, like especially the O-line, I thought they took over. I don't know if that's UAB's conditioning or whatever it was, but especially towards the end of the game, I really thought the O-line took over. So that was another sign of promise. Receivers are looking okay. That was a concern last year. And Day Hunter, Day Hunter, the running back transfer from Hawaii. He's looking pretty good. And they bring back TJ Green this week as well, who we saw last year. I thought he was our best back last year.
How about the run defense after was it the first quarter? The first quarter was a little bit rough, but
even the whole first half,
that,
I'd say. But
yeah, maybe the first half. So yeah, second half, that run defense really clamped down, and that was probably the difference in maybe.
I think they got
them to 14 points
at least, like somewhere between like 170 to 200 rushing yards in the first half. I'd have to go back and look it up. But looking at the numbers right now, they only had 240 the whole game. So yeah, the coaching staff, the halftime adjustments they make, and I've seen this throughout on the time Freeze has been here. The halftime adjustments they make are really, really impressive. So this week is going to be a big test for the team. So we'll have to see what happens. But getting a win over a UIB team that I still think can get 9 or 10 wins this season is really impressive. So,
well, they were a 6-point favorite coming into Williams Stadium. So, if this was neutral field, you're looking at more maybe like a 9-point favorite. And then if it's away, even more, probably double digits if this was a home game for UAB. So coming in as an away team as a 6-point favorite and losing, that's a big win. And you mentioned, Christian, I know, as an under machine. I think you have to look at that total for the Wake Forest game. I think it's at 63.5, which, I don't see this Liberty team putting up 30 points. So does that mean Wake Forest is putting up more than 30 or 40 points? Maybe. I don't know. But like you said, under machine, that's probably a pretty strong play there under 63.5.
Yeah, you said it's 60. So let's just put that at 64 real quick. And then the spread is 17, 16
and a half.
Okay, so we'll just say 17 or 16.
Do a little tease right there.
So doing the math right there, they're looking at 40 to 24, basically. That's what we're looking at. That's what they're saying it's going to be. So, I mean, that Wake Forest offense is going to be really tough to stop. But, I mean,
I feel more comfortable at 40 for Wake Forest and do the 24 for us. I don't know that our offense is going to be able to get that many points on the board against a much bigger defense than what we've played the previous 2 weeks, and a lot faster of a defense than what we played the 2 weeks. While Wake's strong point is definitely its offense, you're still going in playing a Power 5. Even if it's Wake, they're a ranked Power 5 defense on the road. That's going to be tough to go into and be able to get 24 points on there. To your point, I mean, last week too with the over-unders, I mean, not only did they more than cover and win by 7, really they won by 14 because that last touchdown, with 5 minutes left is when we fumbled the ball.
Fumble,
Right, fumble. I mean, you don't have that fumble. I don't see them probably scoring their touchdown. They weren't moving the ball at all. They just got it deep in our zone. 3 minutes left in the game. We're able to put one up real quick, and then we just had to put it away. So knowing that they're under machine, that does bring in the question if we're going to look at this game from a point of being calling the over or under. I'd feel Thomas and I, we mentioned this in our chat, and I'll say it again. Thomas, you may agree with me now. Still, maybe you've come a little bit differently. I'm still on the side of at 17, I'd be more comfortable. 16
it's a key number. Yeah,
it's a key number. It really is.
I mean,
I'd be
Think
comfortable
about this.
taking Liberty to cover that 17. Not so much at 16.5. It's amazing that half a point makes a difference of where I come in on comfortability for
I
it.
could definitely see it being like a 35-21, 35-20 right in there, something like that. I mean, if you want free money, you could probably do a teaser with the under and Liberty.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I don't love
you're looking at
teasers
22 and a
often,
half
but
and 70. So
yeah.
that's pretty appealing.
Right. Well, Mike, how did your South Carolina Gamecocks do the past week?
They won me money. That's how they
it was a tough one to watch, and I was really hoping that it would have been. I didn't expect us to win, but I was hoping for a better outcome. I didn't think they were going to dominate us that bad, but it is what it is, and it's just a game, and you learn, and like I said, it's a second year with the coach, and I'm gonna call it the first real season. I know last year was a real season, but still with COVID and everything, it was a little touch and go there. But this is the real first season for Shane Beamer. I think there's still a lot going on. I think the offense is still getting used to Spencer Rattler, and him trying to figure out how to lead the team. And just it wasn't easy to watch. I'll just put it that way.
You certainly don't have easy this weekend.
I don't even know who we're playing.
Oh, you probably don't want to know.
I'm going to go probably Georgia or somebody.
You are playing number 1 Georgia. Now, they are at home, so maybe.
Yeah, that means nothing. They could be playing on the move.
Travel to Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that South Carolina has great fans and Williams-Brice has a great atmosphere, and I think it will help. But when you're number 1 Georgia, you could tie one hand behind their back and Georgia's probably still going to win. That's just how it is.
Yeah, Georgia's a 24-point favorite in that game.
I have
52 over under. I'd take the over on that, 52 over on that one. If they were able to do to Oregon what they can probably do to Georgia or to South Carolina, I'd definitely take the over.
Yeah,
on that one.
Yeah, it's going to look very similar. I think that Oregon Georgia game is going to look very similar for
Well, watch the Liberty game. You'll probably get more fulfillment as you can make that, like you said. That's your main team. Get more fulfillment, hopefully, of them putting up a better fight to be able to get an upset maybe than South Carolina over Georgia.
All right. Give my opinion on the Tennessee Volunteers. So it's funny being ranked lower, but we were still favored against Pitt this past week while they were playing at home. And I know they took offense to not being favored playing at home, which I get it. I'm not super anti, them feeling that way. However, I did feel like we were the better team going into it. I was surprised by Slovis's performance. That honestly kind of changed my opinion of QB play for them right now when he's healthy. Obviously, he missed the second half against us, but so Pitt, I think they've got solid QB play, even with their backup, Patty. He played okay, to be able to hang in there with us. They were taking some hits too. So QB play was impressive from them, but also their defensive line was wild. Running back as well. So I am a little bit, I'll admit I was wrong of what I would expect out of them for this year. They've still got some really solid pieces, a lot of weak points from what they lost with, their wide receiver room. But anyway, I think they'll still end up having a good year overall. What I was most impressed with for us with Tennessee was our defense. Our defense showed up. And for traditionally being a defense that is not fantastic and hasn't been fantastic in a few years, probably since the Derek Barnett days when we still had him on the line. I was really impressed with our defense, that they could hang in there, that they put so much pressure on the quarterback. We gave up some runs. That was tough. I think that'll probably be a focus of how do we maintain the pass rush? How do we stop the run a little bit better? Those quick throws were were eating us up a little bit too. Offensively, Hooker seemed out of his element with the pass rush that was coming into us, and I already complimented their defensive line, but we're such a quick offense. But because of the pass rush, it's almost like we weren't expecting to have to move that quickly. So he was struggling to get the ball out without being pressured. Some of our best plays were with Jalen Hyatt, just a quick little out route, 5 yards down the field, and him making a play to make his man miss. So our wide receivers, I was impressed with that. Brew McCoy had a really good game. Happy to see it for him. Cedric Tillman showed up big, especially getting that touchdown grab in overtime. So our offense is the one that I would say this week needs the most work. Defense, hopefully we can focus on stopping the run and maintaining what we did to disrupt the passing game as we go into this next week. Akron will be a tune-up game. I really don't want to see this get close at all, but we're going into a really rough stretch with Miami coming up in a couple of weeks. So, but yeah, overall, I was generally, pleased with the win, not super pleased with our performance. I know we're better than that, especially on offense.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about recap for a couple different things. Obviously, we mentioned the big set.
Wait, you don't want to talk UConn football?
You don't want to talk UConn football.
No. I honestly, I'll go back to my secondary team and my roots of just Texas, and I know that's a topic that we're going to talk about anyway. So we can play that in, but Texas was the real team that I've always had an attachment to growing up because the Vince Young era, and everything
that's crazy.
Like that.
That's when you were growing up. I was
old. I mean, I was probably 10. I don't know. It was 10, 12 years old during the
I was well into college.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Texas is probably the one team I've had an attachment on the most. So as a secondary team, Texas would be it. So obviously that was probably, can we say game of the week at this point? Game of the week.
Let's just start there. We'll go back to the upset side. Let's since you're on it and you're claiming Texas as a pseudo team of yours, and
I don't want to be a fraud.
5 years I've known you. You've all said that, so it's not you jumping on a bandwagon.
Thank you. I don't want to be a fraud. Thank you.
It's not. You have said that along when they were bad numerous times. I've heard you say it before. We can go back and pull audio from the Down in Flames days.
You said when they're bad, when they were bad. Emphasis.
They lost and got ranked this week. I think they're pretty good. And you took Alabama down to the wire. You did pretty well. And if it wasn't for a questionable not safety. Was it pass and rushing the passer? Was it
the unnecessary roughness?
Unnecessary roughness on the passer.
Yeah,
roughing the passer call. Was it not? You can make the argument that maybe Texas should have won that game. Now, I'm not going to blame it on a bad call, but that definitely is a part of it. That if that close, you're talking they definitely were in there and could have had the moment to go for it. So that bold question: is Texas back? Is the Texas team that we saw going to be a consistent thing throughout the rest of the season? Was it that Texas was just amped up for that one game? Was Alabama down and not really in it? Is Texas back, Thomas?
I don't think there's a clear answer here. I really don't. I don't, mainly because Quinn Ewers going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. If he was healthy and playing every game, sure, I'd actually be pretty confident and say Texas is back. They will be a top 15 team this year for the rest of the way. But now you have Hudson Card going there for the next 4 or 6 games. And we obviously saw there was a downgrade. He looked okay. He looked good, but it wasn't top tier, right? It wasn't what Quinn Ewers was giving you in the first quarter and a half of that football game. And, he is a capable Power 5 quarterback. But what Quinn Ewers was doing was probably top 10 Power 5 quarterback, potential. And obviously we all know his pedigree and the potential that he can be. And, I'm pretty confident if he wasn't hurt in that game, didn't get hurt, that offense would have put up more than 19 points and they were going to win that game. And you can't avoid that sometimes, right? Injuries they happen and it can't always be an excuse. But when your starting quarterback who starts out 9 for 12 with 134 yards, lighting up an Alabama defense gets hurt, that's a tough game to win after that. You know, any team that loses their starting quarterback is going to struggle a bit. And Hudson Card's capable, but he's not Quinn Ewers. But this offense, again, the reason I say it's complicated and don't want to say no is because this offense is very electric. And we saw some physicality out of this defense for the first time in a long time, right? We saw this team actually be able to tackle and keep Alabama and Bryce Young, who's a Heisman candidate, to only 20 points. And really, like you said, a couple of questionable calls there where maybe they shouldn't have put 20 points up there. Maybe there's some SEC bias. There's a lot of things that you could say there, but I don't want to say that they're back fully because your quarterback's going to be out for about a month or so. But if that wasn't the case, they're a top 15 team this year. Talent-wise, they're a top 15 team.
I absolutely agree with you there. Talent-wise, they're there. I mean, they recruit that way across the board. Even in their down years, they were still. I mean, Texas is always going to recruit. Texas could have 3 and 9 seasons left and right, and they're still going to be able to recruit. It's Texas. We just haven't seen.
I will say that about a month from now brings you to that Oklahoma game. If he can come back, if Ewers can come back on that early side of the injury and make it back for the Oklahoma game, I do think they can win the next 3 games. It's UTSA, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. I think they have enough talent and to win those next 3 games with Bijan Robinson and Hudson Card and that offense, that they should be able to win those next 3 games. So if Ewers can come back for Oklahoma, it's at Oklahoma, then maybe they can stay 1 loss until the Oklahoma State game. And then obviously until the Baylor game, which is their last big test at the end of the year. But if he's still out, that's a questionable game against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I still, if you were able to, I understand you being in Oklahoma, but if you were able to take Bama that deep with Card without Ewers, I certainly think you'd be able to take Oklahoma that deep.
Think so?
With a much worse defense than what Alabama is as well too. So I would
think
say
so, but didn't we see Florida?
Change.
Didn't we see Florida take Oklahoma to the last couple of minutes last year, and they ended up being 6 and 7? So
yeah, but it's
sometimes
Florida.
It could. Yeah, but it's Texas. I'm just saying, like pedigree-wise, the last 5 years, Florida and Texas have been a similar project.
It's a little bit of bias, but I trust Texas to be able to put things together more than I do Florida on a consistency basis. So,
I hope so.
I understand the last 10, 12 years since the Colt McCoy days, we haven't seen a whole lot. I still trust that Texas is going to be able to do something more consistently than Florida has, even though I understand Florida's had better years. Maybe I sound like I'm rambling and making excuses for what it is. I have more of a hope that I think Texas will be able to see that out. And I think Texas, as good as they did, as physical as they played against Alabama, I have to believe they're going to be that physical against Oklahoma coming into a rivalry game. Now, where another reason to give pause, Alabama, uncharacteristically Alabama, and to be a fly in the room post-game in that Alabama locker room with Nick Saban. Nick Saban preaches disciplined football. Do not make stupid mistakes. And oh my gosh, 15 penalties for 100 yards. Now, some of those pass interference penalties, I think were legit, but they were definitely ones that were getting called because, give Texas coaching credit again too, they were choosing to exploit that, knowing that Alabama corners and safeties were going to be playing them tight, which they always do. They play them physical. And they're choosing to try to exploit that and throw those balls deep to hopefully get a flag. And so that's good coaching. But I don't know that you're always going to be able to get that against every team that you play against. So that'd be one other reason why I give a little bit of pause was what we saw the real deal. And you also saw Bama late in that game start to figure things out again. And they looked, when they were passing the ball, they looked like Bama. I was like, okay, if they played it this way the whole game through, they would have rolled.
I will say I'm a little bit concerned, not concerned. You never want to be concerned about Bama, but their lack of playmakers in the wide receiver room is not something we're used to over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
They really just don't have a standout wide receiver this year, from what it seems like. The first half, they had like 2 completed balls to a wide receiver. I mean,
they're not getting the separation.
They're not. And they don't have a first-round talent in that wide receiver room right now. I don't know about some of the younger guys, but Gibbs, the running back, led the team with 9 receptions that game. And then I'm trying to see, like, Holden was their wide receiver who had 4 catches. He's got 9 on the year so far. They don't have a first-round talent as a wide receiver on this team right now, which is something we haven't seen for Bama in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think I know the real reason behind the Texas success right now, and I'm just going to read some statistics here, so just bear with me. So, for Texas football, in the 12 years before King of the Hill aired, they were 77-60-2, with a 56.2% average, or whatever. Texas football in the 12 years since King of the Hill stopped airing, 83-71 with a 53.9 percentage. Texas football during the 12 years King of the Hill aired, 128-27 with an 82.6% and 1 national title. As of January 19th, 2022, they are remaking King of the Hill. Coincidence or not? That's all I'm saying. Hank Hill, he's out there. Hank and Peggy and Bobby, they're the real playmakers for Texas.
Is that show based in Texas?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That makes more sense.
Yeah,
You're showing your young age.
I think that's the real
No,
reason.
I know the show. I just never watched it.
And
Yeah, you should watch
Strickland
it. It's pretty
Propane
funny.
is actually going to be a sponsor for Texas football.
Exactly. Propane and propane accessories. So
That's right. Christian, any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah,
Texas?
I want Texas to be back. I just think there's a lot more into that game than even. I think there could be even more motivation for that Bama game than there will be for Oklahoma, which is saying a lot. I think there is the massive motivation of the SEC saying, "Oh, when Texas and Oklahoma are coming in, you guys are going to be trash." I think that was massive, and that stadium capacity is like 100,000, and there was like 104,000 there, so they went way over. It was the biggest attendance there ever. I think there's a lot more to this game than that. I'm looking at the schedule. I think I could see them going like 8-4. So I think Ewers isn't going to be back. I think they lose. I think there's a chance they lose to Texas Tech. Whether or not he's back, it could just be sneaky. Whether or not he's back, that Oklahoma game is scary. Oklahoma State on the road, and then dare I say Kansas? Is it too soon to say Kansas?
All right.
Let's,
And then
we're going to
sound like
credibility
Jared.
as the football
You
podcast.
sound like Jared right now.
But regardless, I think there's some spots that they slip up throughout the season that they come down from that game a little bit. I want them to be back. I think they're building towards something.
College football is better with Texas back.
Absolutely. Are they going to be top 15 the rest of the year? I don't think. I think they'll slip a couple times.
It's like Texas is one of those teams. As much as I despise U of M, college football is better when U of M is back. Texas is better, or the college football is better when Texas is back. So I definitely hope that that's the case, and we keep on seeing success. I think it only helps build viewership and make the season more exciting as we see Texas build, hopefully back into what they were before essentially 2011 came around. So let's move in then to our upsets. Let's go ahead and talk first about another Texas team. So Texas A&M University, those mighty Aggies. So how about that game?
go at.
Roll Nears.
What a mess.
I mean, now where I'll give a little bit of credit again. This was a topic of debate within our text group this week a little bit for those of you listening. Appalachian State was already receiving votes when the season even took place. I mean, they were a great team last year. They had a 10-3 or 10-4 overall record and 3 overall record last year. Came in already receiving votes, took another Power 5 school down to the wire in UNC. So this is part of what I think a little bit of overreaction. Everybody's saying that was a completely terrible loss by Texas A&M. I think it was a bad loss. I definitely think that this makes Jimbo Fisher again look questionable with him losing to Appalachian State again, or not again, but in week 2, and then last year having a mediocre season, especially when you loaded up an offense in your recruiting. I don't know how this makes you look long term, and you really need to pull out probably at least a 10-win season from here on out to really be able to not put yourself in a position to be considered on the hot seat for everything that the boosters have done to be able to help your NIL, be able to bring in those 5-star recruits. But I do think it's a little bit more of a reaction to say that it is a insanely terrible loss, because Appalachian State obviously already has a pedigree behind it, that they are a good quality Sun Belt team who's going to be competing for a Sun Belt championship. It may not be American Conference, but Sun Belt, I'd say, when it comes to other than Power Fives, is probably that next one down below the American Conference. So if you're a power in the Sun Belt, I think you're definitely a good team.
Yeah, not a terrible loss, but it's an ugly loss. It really
Sure.
And it's the way that they lost, the fashion of that game. You know, where your offense looks like the Joe Flacco Jets off, it looks like the Cooper Rush Dallas Cowboys offense. I mean, can they just get a quarterback? Like, if you're gonna lose like lose in some style, or lose like you look like you had a shot. They looked like the Sun Belt team on offense. They didn't look like the more talented team that has 50 something 4-star. The amount of talent that is on that roster, and the fact that, I'm sorry, Haynes King is not a Power 5 quarterback at this point. Like, the guy looked atrocious. You have to go over to Max Johnson at this point, the LSU transfer. I think is it Brad Johnson's son or Brad Johnson's nephew, or he's related to Brad Johnson and transferred from LSU. But I think it's time you have to make the quarterback change. I mean, if that doesn't get a quarterback change, I don't know what will. But under 100 yards passing, 14 points, and one of them was a return, right? It was not even an offensive touchdown. So yeah, that was atrocious on offense.
That's if you want to give them a positive, the Texas A&M Aggies positive. Hey, they kept a team that scored 61 points against UNC to only be 10 offensive points. So, hey, there's you Aggie fans, there's a little nugget you can put in your back pocket and say you had some little emotional victory last week.
Yeah, I think Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, I think they answer a question I always ask, and I think I've asked this question on here before, is, are teams good because of a coach or because of players? And I always use Alabama and Nick Saban. We're really just Nick Saban, because everybody wants to go to Alabama, or everybody wants to go to Clemson, or these other schools that are pretty well. And I think Jimbo Fisher answers it, is that it really is the coach that is making the difference. In some of these teams, because I think Kyle just said, maybe with Thomas, you have 50 something 4-star recruits. There's no reason that you shouldn't be out there, being able to play better football and beat lower ranked teams with that amount of talent. But it also reminds me of, other people from other sports where they stack teams and then they flop as well. So maybe there's too many Chiefs and not enough Indians on the team type of situation. So, but I just think that answers that question for myself, is that I think the coach really does make the difference. Now,
I think it definitely answers the question that Jimbo Fisher is not Nick Saban, and
exactly.
That before they even played each other, that battle already got settled. So we can move on from that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit then.
Kyle, real quick.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, comparing them really quickly. I feel like one of the big differences is Saban, 10 years ago or so, he said, basically, I know my offense isn't going to cut it. And he basically threw it out the door and handed it off to the offensive coordinators. Whereas Jimbo, I mean, it seems like it's still all his offense. And it's not really adapting at all. And so, I mean, if he doesn't adjust in a hurry, he's going to be out the door. But I think that shows one of the biggest differences between them and what makes Saban better.
I agree 100%. And I also think, again, one of the things that makes Saban great is Saban demands perfection. I don't get that same kind of feeling out of Jimbo Fisher. While he definitely wants perfection, I don't think he demands it the way that, I mean, nobody demands it like Nick Saban. That's why he's been able to have the success that he's had, is because he demands perfection, and players want to play for him that want to have perfection, and they accept that when they come in. So that's definitely a big piece there. Let's move in to one of the other upsets, Notre Dame Marshall. I don't have a ton to say about this game. It's definitely a bad loss. Marshall's not what Appalachian State was. Now I'd say they're a better team in the Sun Belt than the upper half, but they're definitely not Appalachian State. And so is Notre Dame just that inept? Not very good? Is it Marshall just had a big day? Notre Dame looking forward in the schedule? What led to this one?
This one really was, I think, came down to physicality, which is weird for the nature of the coach coming in for Notre Dame. But Marshall was way more physical on defense. They had so much more juice. And then key plays with a pick six, the quarterback and running back combo on Marshall making key plays on offense. They obviously were able to move the ball, but Notre Dame just stalled out, especially in the red zone. I mean, that offense, and it's going to get worse because the quarterback's now out for, I think, another month or so now, and they're going back to the backup from Connecticut, who has looked shaky, to say the least. But I think Notre Dame's actually in some real trouble this year. I'd be surprised if they can finish above 500 at this point.
Really?
Wow.
Well, I'd have to look at the schedule. I might eat those words. I'd have to look at the schedule, and I'll pull that up while you guys are talking. But
here, I already have it. Let's run through it real quick. Let's just play a game. Okay. Next up, at home against Cal.
I'm going to say W.
Yeah.
Okay. At UNC.
Loss.
Okay. At BYU.
Loss.
Home at Stanford. Home against Stanford.
Win.
I would say loss, but
Yeah,
okay. So we'll give them the win. We'll give them the win. At home against UNLV.
Win.
At Syracuse. Sean Tucker.
Win.
No, I say loss. Syracuse. I've actually been pretty impressed. Yeah.
I don't know. Didn't Liberty beat Syracuse?
It's a different Syracuse team this year.
Yeah, and Liberty was pretty good, so not to take anything away from that either.
Okay. So between Stanford and Syracuse, they get one win out of those two. Clemson. Clemson's going to Notre Dame.
Loss.
At Navy. Probably a win.
Yeah.
Navy's not good this year. And then Boston College is going there.
I'm going to go loss. I mean, win.
I'll give them a win. I mean, if their starting quarterback's back at that point.
Okay. And then
he should be at the end of the year.
And then at USC.
Loss. It's just tough.
Really tough. So, I mean,
but I'm so unimpressed by that offense. The offensive line looked terrible. I mean, I don't know if the D line from Marshall has some studs that are just hiding in the rough, but I watched this whole game. They looked like grown men against a high school team against that offense. I mean, I'm serious. Notre Dame couldn't move the ball at all.
Yeah. It was both sides of the ball. To Eric's point, he's going to come on in just a minute here as well, to our guest picker. Like he pointed out, so Coach Huff for Marshall definitely did well with transfers, got the offense humming and moving along, and potentially maybe somebody to be considered for the Nebraska job. A little hint to throw in there as we come to our next portion here. I'll say this on everybody's questioning Marcus Freeman. Is Marcus Freeman the guy? What's it going to look like? On the Spartan side of things, like, is Marcus Freeman what Bobby Williams was for Michigan State back in the early 2000s? I don't know that I'm ready to jump there yet and say that Marcus Freeman's not going to be able to get it done. I will point out Brian Kelly's first season, he started off 1-3. Now, those 3 losses were to Michigan State, and Stanford. But still, I mean, Brian Kelly also started off kind of rocky and then be able to build things in. So I don't know that I'm ready to throw Marcus Freeman out just yet. It is definitely concerning.
No, I still think this defense is actually pretty good. They're an above average defense still. I mean, we saw that against Ohio State and what they did, especially that first half against C.J. Stroud. But that offense is never going to win. That offense isn't going to carry him to any wins this year, especially now that your starting quarterback in Buckner's out for, I think it's at least 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we move on
I
to?
wasn't impressed with Buckner. I mean, I know you mentioned the offensive line, but either game really. But I would say give Freeman 2 to 3 years to bring in his own guys for the offense, not the Kelly guys. And then I'd say let's have more of an assessment then. But I feel like it's to be expected a little bit, at least in this first season.
For sure.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts then on the Notre Dame game before we move on to Nebraska?
I tallied it up and we give them 5 wins. So
even if it's 1 or 2 more, a 7-win season is not up to their standards.
Yeah. Time will tell, and we shall see. Definitely be a continued topic as we move on through the year about Notre Dame. So, finally, then, Nebraska. Now, hold on. Let me look here.
You got that receipt?
I can't find my receipt on Scott Frost. Can I get at least store credit?
I can give you a gift
Scott
card.
Frost purchase.
I can give you a gift card.
How long was he at Nebraska?
4 years, right? 5.
Okay.
4
or 5. Yeah.
6 years. 6 years.
6.
He was given a very long leash.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you haven't shown it, I mean, in a real life job, if you suck at it, like they're gonna ask you to go, not 6 years.
It's
I mean,
because
so it was
he
about
is such a notable alumnus.
No, this is year 5. This is year 5. He started 2018.
Okay.
Year 5. So
through the COVID year, still by this point in time, he should have been much better than what he had been at. And I'm going to speak for Peyton, as me and him were defenders of him all the way through. Definitely believe that Scott Frost is going to be able to turn it around and bring things in. We were wrong. Wasn't a good purchase. Feel bad for the guy. Definitely wanted to be able to have success there and bring Nebraska back. But it definitely didn't happen. And it makes you question, is Nebraska ever going to be able to be what Nebraska was again? Is Nebraska going to be able to bring in a big name hire? And if they do, can they recruit to Nebraska? I mean, Nebraska is not what it was back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, you can't really count on a ton of talent to be able to build up into the state. You're not building a team on a huge offensive line, corn-fed anymore, and then hopefully bringing in a few national players, skill players from California and around. I don't know that those days exist anymore. And so it's going to be pretty hard to recruit to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Iowa
just hard. It's just hard.
Has a hard enough time doing it. Now, Kurt Ferentz does a very good job with getting what he gets out of his teams, or not offensively this year anyway. But historically, Kurt Ferentz has done a good job of getting the most out of 3-star teams. I think Nebraska is becoming a team that is going to annually be an 8-win at best team. Once in a while, maybe they get 10 and have a magical season to be able to be considered for something. I don't see them being what they were prior to joining the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna bring up Iowa just as the example, at least counter your point a little bit. I think you just need to bring in a coach who's going to actually establish an identity. Something I don't think that Frost ever truly did there.
But so Iowa, like if you're using Iowa as your example, Iowa's what I'm saying. They have a magical season once in a while, but they're usually like an 8-9 win team. As good as Ferentz has been, they've never won the Big Ten underneath them. They've gotten the championship games twice, but they've gotten killed.
Nebraska would sign up for that in a heartbeat at this point, would they not?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, but they're signing up for that. But I think Nebraska football is Nebraska sports. Like you want something out of that. I just don't know that Nebraska's expectations are really ever to be anything more than hoping that you get to 10 wins. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see Nebraska be good again. It'd be good for the Big Ten Conference to be able to have another fix the West and bring another team who actually can make something happen in there. But yeah, I think as far as
so you're saying that the ceiling at this point might just be the Bo Pelini years of 8-9 wins. Flirt with the top 25 ranking here and there. but that's the ceiling.
Flirt with getting to a conference championship. Maybe
Sure.
once they might be able to be with the new expanded playoff team. Maybe once in a while they're able to get in as a first rounder.
So
for the 12. But that's going to be a once in a while
excuses for
thing.
them to not be
a
Michigan
perennial
State
competitor.
Right? Is there no excuse for them not to just be a Michigan State?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Coach Tuck's turned us into a perennial power. That's going to come in the next 3 years. So I don't know what we're talking about here.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fair. I mean, I think Michigan, realistically, as a Michigan State fan, for me, expectations are I want to see my team. Obviously, I have high expectations. I do not settle for just being able to compete for winning a Big Ten on there. But as who the team is across the board, I will say that it's understandable to have Michigan State as a team like, hey, you hope that they're going to be able to get to 8 wins every season and once in a while be able to go towards getting into the Big Ten championship, go to Indy, and then be able to get into the playoff. I think I would say, though, even though yes, I'm going to be a little bit biased, Michigan State is a better program than Nebraska. There's more to draw you to Michigan State, to East Lansing, and to Lincoln, too, as far as a recruiting standpoint. Even without Tucker there, that's going to be more of a draw currently. There's an urban environment that's there that's not in Lincoln that you're going to be able to draw to. So again, I think the expectations are that Nebraska is a second-tier Big Ten team. I think your top-tier Big Ten teams, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin kind of at times throw up there. And then I'd put, honestly, Nebraska's kind of Iowa and Minnesota. And I think that's fair to have the expectations of. I don't know that anything's going to be able to get above that. If they get a huge name coach to come in there, then maybe that changes things up. You got to have a guy that could be able to come in there and recruit. I don't know it's going to be able to be a possibility. I think names that'll get thrown out there. I think Huff's name will get thrown out. I think as blanking on the name, Jared mentioned, or Peyton mentioned him in our group, Coastal Carolina's head coach. I think he's definitely going to be in consideration for it. I think that Matt Campbell out of Iowa State is going to be a definite consideration because that's a guy who's shown he can recruit to a similar place. So that'd be a good hire if you can lure him away. Now, he's got a huge buyout on his contract. However, Nebraska did just choose to pay an extra $7 million to Scott Frost to get him out 3 weeks early. So I don't know if money is much of an issue for him to be able to throw that out there and buy that contract out. And then the one name that's gotten thrown out that I don't think will happen is Urban Meyer's name has been thrown out there. I don't know that Meyer would go to Lincoln.
I got a couple of names for you.
My question is anybody actually going to take Urban? He's had such a funky past the last couple of years.
Doesn't matter.
Somebody
I
don't
school
think
offers
Nebraska.
Urban something because he's won.
I got a couple of names for
You're
you.
going to forget about it. Winning is whatever a major program wants, and a major program offers them.
Yeah, but as people that attended a school where they
how did this turn into
like
Urban Meyer talk?
I mean, all publicity is good publicity, whether it's bad or it's good. But, at the end of the day, like our boosters and backers and all these other people are going to be on board for that. They didn't necessarily have.
If your coach is able to come in and get your school wins, they're going to be like, oh, what was this past? That's what it would turn into.
I got a couple of names that say yes quickly. Yes, say yes or no. Could you see Bill O'Brien, who's currently at the Alabama staff? He's rehabilitating himself.
With the beard.
No. Texans coach. Penn State to Texans, now back on to Alabama.
Maybe.
All right, maybe not. Matt Rule. Matt Rule.
Please,
could be his last year at Carolina. Sure.
Matt Rule, I could say definitely as a possibility.
How about Dave Aranda from Baylor? Is that a better job? Could it go into Baylor from Baylor to Nebraska? Possibly. You mentioned Matt Campbell. I think that would probably be a step up. You mentioned Charles Huff, Luke Fickell. I mean, could this be the job that takes him out of Cincinnati? Maybe. I mean, so there's some names.
I don't think Fickell's leaving Cincinnati for Nebraska. I'll say that. I think Cincinnati is almost a better job than Nebraska currently.
But it's not a Power 5. But it's not a Power 5. That's the problem. It's not a Power 5. And the money. Nebraska could pay a lot more. Yeah, but Nebraska's going to be able to pay a lot more than Cincinnati at this point. No? I mean, maybe
you're right.
Pay
a whole lot more, and he didn't go for that. So
I mean, as far someone had mentioned the Coastal Carolina coach going there. I mean, they would have to offer him a lot of money to leave the beach to go to Corn. You know, like insert that kid here, Corn. He just screen swipe. You know, like I mean, and what like when you go for a job interview for Nebraska, I mean, is that like we're going to pay you well, we're going to feed you well, we're going to give you all the corn you can possibly think of? I mean, it's just like it's not.
Okay, now we're sounding like Texas A&M talking about App State.
It's not the lucrative job that it once was. I definitely.
What about what would you leave Kentucky? Mark Stoops. He's done a pretty good job at Kentucky.
I don't think Stoops would leave for. I don't think Stoops would leave.
It's an SEC.
I think Stoops would leave for the right job. I do not think he'd leave for Nebraska.
Right.
Fair, but
I think Stoops is in that level where he's going to hold out for. Is Saban going to retire in the next 5 years? Is that job at Texas A&M going to be open for me to be able to go there?
The bigger job, sure.
I think he's on that level where he's not going to consider that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze isn't going to consider going to Nebraska because he knows.
But he's not staying at Kentucky long term, right? But he's not staying at Kentucky long term.
I don't think so. No,
we wouldn't think.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, I think to try to just go back and answer your question, like, will Nebraska ever be back to like the days of competing for national titles and stuff like that? I would say no, but can Nebraska be back in terms of competing for the Big Ten West every year? I would say yes.
Well, that's not saying much. So
I mean, sure, yes, but regardless, I would say that's back compared to what they are now. But
how many other schools have we had that conversation about? Like, will they ever be back there? I'm going to use Clemson as the example. They won the national championship back in the 80s. And then they were just kind of flatlined for many years. I mean, they were good, but they just kind of flatlined. Then all of a sudden, you know, they had
get the right coach. You get the right coach, it can be done.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier for school like Clemson and South Carolina to make that happen again than a school.
But here's the thing: we know they have the money, right? We know they have the money to attract a big coach.
Yeah, they do.
We'll pay in corn.
That's right. All right. It is time for us to move over to the Legal Contact podcast for our week 4 college, our week 3, kind of week 4 college football picks. You had that first week, there were a few teams on there. We didn't do picks. So week 3 of our picks. We were excited.
Yeah, that was week 0.
That was week 0.
Yeah,
we were excited to bring in a new segment, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show here, where we're going to have a guest pickers hopefully coming in every week. This week, I would like to welcome in my good friend Eric Rose from the state of Michigan. Eric, thanks for joining the Legal Contact podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kyle. It's excited to talk football, right? Love football.
Super excited to have you. Eric, like I said, I've known Eric my entire life, actually, ever since I was a wee little lad. I've known Eric. He was a couple years older than me. He was real close age with my sister, so looked up to Eric as I was going into high school and continued friendship with him, his brother, his whole family. Eric has one downfall, and it's kind of a big one. He does wear that school from Ann Arbor's colors. So now I'll give Eric this.
So we can talk UConn, Michigan football today.
That's right. You could.
But I would love to qualify this. I would say a sensible Michigan fan. Where
you are. That's why I chose to bring you on and not your brother.
Where I do love. My wife is a Michigan State fan, and so I root for them, even against Ohio State, and that's not always I have to do that. You have to root against Ohio State. Anyways, that's just my thought there, Kyle. I'm a sensible Michigan fan. I'd love to be considered that the rest of this podcast, if possible.
Yes, Eric is one of my favorite Michigan fans because he's sensible, he's not arrogant, and he is objective across the board.
That's true. So when we have a psychopath as a coach, what can you do?
Right, exactly. See, he's objective. There we go. Let me ask you this, Eric, not to get too much on Michigan here. Right. Is J.J. McCarthy a Heisman candidate this year? It sounds like
he has improved in so many ways. I've talked to some sources who have actually been and seen him at practice. He's improved with his legs. Here's the big thing. You cannot win a Heisman with a turnover sickness that he had the last couple of years. So his command of the offense, his way that he has leadership, I think if they can go through their simple, impy-dimpy, easy schedule, the easiest of FBS, and hit the hard ones like Ohio State and again Michigan State with the pedigree and name Michigan, it could happen. But he can't turn the ball over. He's got to command the offense like he should, and he's got to win the big games.
that Hawaii game already put him on the ballot, so I think he's there. But that's just me having a little bit of fun there. Some of my Michigan friends. So let's move into it. Let's move into our picks again. Thanks for joining us, Eric. Our first pick here, then we're going to go with the BYU Cougars traveling and playing at the Oregon Ducks. So let's go ahead, Thomas. I'm going to have it start off with you this week. What are your quick thoughts on this game, and who do you got?
Well, Oregon's a favorite here, which is a little interesting, obviously, but it is a home game. They actually looked, I mean, you can't say much against EW, but they looked decent. They put up 70 points last week, so a little good rebound after Georgia. I will actually pick Oregon here at home. I wasn't too impressed. I watched the whole BYU Baylor game. Obviously, I had Baylor in that game, but if their wide receivers are still out, which their top two wide receivers were out against Baylor, and they obviously missed them. They have some depth, but if they're out again, I'll pick Oregon here.
All right, taking Oregon. Christian.
Yeah, as Thomas said, that line is very interesting. Seeing that does kind of scare me. It's up to 3.5 right now. I do think BYU's, I mean, obviously outside of the receivers being out, I do think the big kind of issue they can have is in the trenches, which is Baylor's strength. And despite that, BYU ultimately did come out on top. With that being the case, I don't think Oregon is as strong like as last year in the trenches. So as long as the receivers are back, I know we can't have a contingency on these picks. But as long as those receivers are back, which they were supposed to originally last week, I think I'm going to ride with BYU.
That's a fair thing to say. I mean, you can't make a contingency on it, but you can have more hope if that's the case. So
yes.
That's fair. Mike, let's go with you on this one.
I'm going BYU.
Mormon
for those Stormin' Mormons.
That's right, Stormin' Mormons.
That's
a
right.
big Mormon
All right.
fan.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take Oregon in this one. I don't with the wide receiver questions coming into mind. I'm not. And after coming off a really hard game against Baylor, start off that season to be able to take on Oregon team who, yes, did get demolished by Georgia. I think there's still enough depth there, and I believe in where the program is headed that I think Oregon does come out on top. So give me Eric, what are your thoughts here on Oregon and BYU?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's a tough place to play. You don't know what kind of shirts they're going to bring out that are going to scare somebody. But they'll be quacking at you no matter as they play. But anyways, BYU has a really good quarterback in Jaron Hall. He's been really significant, but he gets rattled easily. And I think Mario Cristobal, who was there at Oregon, did a good job of setting forth a really solid defense. So I got to say Oregon there at home and quack away.
All right, quack, quack. Let's move on to number 22, Penn State, traveling to unranked Auburn. So this is one of the two kind of test games for the Big Ten East, and to actually see some real competition and to see, since the first week in Notre Dame proved not to be much as we see from last week, but outside of Ohio State playing Notre Dame, the Big Ten East still hasn't played any teams. So this is definitely a game kind of to watch to maybe set some expectations to see what we get. Thomas, thoughts on Penn State at Auburn?
This is another close one when you look at the matchup here as far as the spread. Penn State obviously on the road, but as a 3-point favorite. Again, I don't like always betting against Sean Clifford in season 10 million of him at Penn State. However, so far, Auburn has been unimpressive. San Jose State, they only won by 8 points last week. TJ Finley has looked subpar, to say the least. So Clifford, with his experience, should be able to get it done, I think, on the road. I'll pick Penn State.
All right. Good pick. Christian.
Yeah, Auburn has been really disappointing so far. I thought they were going to, at least like with line play and stuff like that, run over San Jose State. San Jose State had struggled the previous week terribly with whoever they were playing, and I think it was an FCS school even. So I thought that was going to happen again, and it didn't. So in a sense, I mean, it could be a good buy low spot on Auburn, but I'm honestly a Sean Clifford fan myself. Can I trust James Franklin is another question. Who knows? But I am going to ride with Penn State in this one.
All right. And Mike?
Same. I'm going with Penn State.
All right, taking the Lions.
I'm
going to take Penn State as well. I have a hard time always trusting Penn State just because they is as good as a team and a roster as that is. There's just always something that seems to let down a lot of situations, but then they'll blow a team out when I'm not expecting them to as well. Sean Clifford, week 1 concerned me with what I saw against who they play week 1. I remember watching the game. Come on now.
Who? Oh, it was Vandy, wasn't it?
No.
Purdue.
Oh,
Purdue.
come on. Purdue, yes.
Purdue.
At Purdue, which is it's hard to play at Purdue. Night game for starting the season.
Yeah,
Purdue's
Drew
a tough
Brees
place.
was there.
That's right. Very good, Thomas. Very good. Did you? What year did Drew Brees? What year was Drew Brees a Heisman finalist?
99.
And where did he finish in the rankings?
It's mean.
Third, and was
Third
it 90?
in the
Was it
rankings in
99 or no?
2000.
2000. Okay.
Yep. Interesting tidbit there.
I was 5.
I don't know how we got to Purdue football from this, but anyway, yeah, Purdue Penn State. Sean Clifford didn't look great that first game, but he looked a lot better last week. I feel like Clifford has a little bit of pressure on himself because he's on that cusp of being considered, I think, for an NFL, be able to be drafted, not be able to be drafted. Kind of some unknowns there. I think he's coming into his own. I mean, geez, he's been there for what feels like he's been there way longer than the Jets have had any stability in quarterback. So, and that's an NFL team.
We drafted their last quarterback.
That's right, you did. So I definitely believe in Sean Clifford. So I think that's going to be a big part. And again, even though you're playing at an SEC team, I don't feel very good about this Auburn team. So I'm going to go with the Big Ten team here and take Penn State. Eric, another Big Ten guy. What do you think of the Nittany Lions here against the Tigers?
The Nifty Kitties, as I used to call them back in the day. Anyways, there's a name that we have to remember. I think this is going to be a name synonymous with Penn State football. It's a freshman running back, Nicholas Singleton. He is a beast. And I do believe they're going to utilize him, not just from the run, but also from the pass. And so I think if James Franklin is smart, is able to get his neurons firing up there and all of his offensive coordinators, I think they're going to be able to take on and beat Auburn. And I think it was last year. I believe they beat them in Happy Valley. I think it was 28-20. And so they're going to keep riding that. So I say Penn State, Nifty Kitties.
Nifty Kitties.
Sweet.
All right, let's go on to the Miami Hurricanes traveling to College Station, Kyle Field, against Texas A&M. Does Texas A&M rebound and come back after that loss to Appalachian State, or do they continue to downfall here as Mario Cristobal's Miami Hurricanes keep on rolling? Thomas.
Now, this is an interesting one because now I'll keep giving you the spread here. Obviously, this one is in Texas. Miami's coming in as a 5.5-point underdog. So the line hasn't been shaken up too much from the previous week results. And, obviously, Miami hasn't been tested thus far. 2 easy games so far this year. We really don't know what to expect and what their ceiling is because they haven't been tested. So this is really their first game of note. You really can't take much out of those first 2 games as far as film. However, when in doubt, go with the quarterback battle. And obviously, Tyler Van Dyke is far and away the better quarterback coming into this game. Unless they make the change, which we haven't heard yet, unless Texas A&M makes the change, even then. But if they're going to roll out Haynes King again, this is probably going to be a low-scoring game, but I like Miami, mainly because of the quarterback matchup.
All right. Christian.
Yeah, I wish they could have NFL overtime rules and we could just get a tie, like a 7-7 tie or something like that. That being the case, this one's really tough, honestly.
You shouldn't talk NFL ties. I mean, Peyton's not
I'm
here
going.
to talk about his Jets, but that's definitely on his his heart there.
I'm going to. I'm going to say that Jimbo doesn't want to be the next coach hitting the road, like Scott Frost did this past week. So I think he does what it takes, at least, to get this team back on track, at least for 1 week, and at least going off this line at them with them 5.5-point favorites. I'll take them at home.
All right, and then Mike.
Yeah, I'm going with Texas A&M. I think that they were embarrassed and they need to come back and show them what they really are, and not that they don't lose to teams like App State, but they did. So, but now they got to prove themselves. So I think, like Christian just said, Jimbo doesn't want to be next on the firing line, and so he has to do what it takes.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm gonna take Texas A&M as well. Now, I'm gonna take Texas A&M not because I think they're necessarily the better team. I actually think Mario Cristobal in Miami has a real shot at actually being the ACC champs and going to the college playoff this year. I'm not banked on that, but I think they have a very strong shot at it. However, being that this game is at College Station, at Kyle Field, 9 p.m. kickoff time, Jimbo Fisher is going to have the Aggies riled up. I think that they are definitely taking this game much more seriously than they did the Appalachian State game. I think some of that was looking to the future for this game, and I think they're going to be dialed in. I do think it'll be close. I would probably take the under for that spread to be field goal game or so. But I do think that Texas A&M and Jimbo is going to be enough just to outdo Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. All right. Eric, give us your thoughts here.
Yeah, here's an interesting statistic for you all to just kind of games when it comes to Jimbo Fisher's career as a head coach. Has he lost 2 in a row? Anybody know?
Just at Texas A&M? Zip
well, I'm just saying that he has not, as a coach, he has not lost 2 in a row when he was with Florida State.
Wow.
And so that's interesting to say. He's a baller, with headset on. And I think that he's going to get his guys really hungry. And so I just see them coming out. They have such an ability in defense. They have some really fast guys in the front line, in the defensive line. So I think if they put pressure on that new offense, Mario Cristobal just kind of threw at these guys, I think Texas A&M can win this one. Texas A&M, my pick.
All right. We're going to move on to then another. This is going to be an unranked matchup here for an SEC opponent. Mississippi State at LSU. Don't have a ton of say on this. I will just say I don't believe a ton in LSU and Brian Kelly this year, so that's something to consider. But Thomas, you go first. Thomas, you got yourself muted.
There we go. So this game is in Baton Rouge, right? So this game's in Baton Rouge. Home game. Brian Kelly. This is they're an underdog at home. 2.5-point underdog at home. You can get them at plus money on the money line. This one will probably go over it. As far as there's going to be some points in this game. We know that Mississippi State can score. Opened up, put 49 points on Memphis. Will Rogers has 9 touchdowns already in 2 games. I just think at home, Jaden Daniels will get it done. Brian Kelly will make a statement. He's just been in the news too much, kind of like Eric was saying with Jimbo Fisher. that this guy, and obviously I picked Miami the last game, but I think just the proven pedigree. I've kind of been the Brian Kelly stan on this podcast, but give me LSU.
All right, Christian.
I don't feel great about it, though. I will say that.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it either, but I'm going to basically just echo along with Thomas. And I think I'm taking LSU very begrudgingly.
All right, Mike, who you got?
Yeah, same. I'm going LSU just because it's in Baton Rouge and them Cajuns are going to come raging. They want to win at home, and if they don't get that win, it's not going to be good for the coach. So I think he needs the win. I think the team needs the win. So I just think that overall, that's LSU at home. They're going to win.
All right, we're going to disagree a little bit here. So like I said last week, I do not think that locker room is on board currently with Brian Kelly at all. On the flip side, I don't like Mike Leach, but I like Mike Leach, and Mike Leach team loves Mike Leach. He's always good for a good soundbite. So I think Mike Leach has ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and actually take Mississippi State against LSU, even in Baton Rouge, on this one. Eric.
I've got to echo you, my friend, Kyle. Hey, that locker room is a mess. You have some guys that have, I mentioned this in the chat, but I believe NIL, for what it's worth, it could be good, bad, but I think it actually, for some of those guys in the locker room, that team dynamic, you're going to see a lot of parity in wins and losses. And I think, Kelly's way over his head. He's not at Grand Valley anymore, Central Michigan or Cincinnati. But I think he's trying to work that organic way, and it's not going to work. And again, Leach, that guy reads poetry nights before he gets ready to get his guys out. And, he's talking about Emmanuel Conti. He when you look at Leach's career, he loves playing the underdog. He makes his guys think everybody out there thinks you're absolutely worthless. But guess what? There's one thing they don't have: your talent, your abilities. Play for Mississippi State. So, yeah, right. Mississippi State's my pick.
Yeah, great pick. All right, let's finish out then with my number 11 Michigan State Spartans traveling to take on the Washington Huskies. Now, I'm going to go ahead and actually get my pick out here first. Christian, I'm going to give you a little bit of information. You asked this question in our group text earlier today. Why is Washington a 3.5-point favorite? Well, I'm going to give you some insight on that and tell you why Washington is a 3.5-point favorite. Washington did not open as a 3.5-point favorite. Michigan State opened as a 3-point favorite on Sunday. So in the days, that has flopped the other way. Now, I think that's a little bit of so many people were throwing money at this game that Vegas is turning the odds and trying to turn the table back onto giving it the +2, to giving the favorite to Washington. Now, that's part of it. If you look at this on paper, you would think that Michigan State is definitely the better team and should be able to be the team to go and win. And they might be. However, the reason I've said this all preseason to everybody, why this game has worried me from the beginning, before we even started, and from what I've seen so far this year, is a quarterback by the name of Michael Penix Jr., who played in Indiana, who torched Michigan State at Indiana, and so far is putting up insane numbers. Now, granted, not very great opponents in Kent State and Portland, but again, Michigan State hasn't had great opponents playing two MAC teams, and we share a MAC team opponent there within Kent State, or both played a MAC team in our offseason there. Michael Penix Jr., though, so far has 46 completions on 66 attempts, 682 yards. He has a QB rating of 183.5 currently. Also have a very, very good receiver in Jalen McMillan, who has 214 receiving yards, 9 receptions, 3 touchdowns on the season. What did I tell you all was my biggest concern coming into the season? What I need to see the most improvement out of? That's secondary at Michigan State. O-line, one, yes. The O-line doesn't worry me in this game as much. That secondary does, especially being that we lost Snow and that we lost Henderson. That defensive front for run game is fantastic. Wyndham transfer in has been Big Ten Player of the Week, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row so far. Has put up great numbers, but that's been against lower opponents. I don't know that we're going to be able to get the kind of pressure on Penix that's going to be there. And without having that, again, depth in the secondary at the linebacker and the safeties, this is just screams the possibility for Penix to be able to light up that scoreboard again. That is why, even though on paper you would see Washington as being the better team, Michigan State being the better team, on the eye test for what we have watched and with the stats, offensive stats, there's enough reason to be concerned as to why Washington would be that 3.5 point favorite currently. However, I had very similar feelings last year going into the Miami game. I did not feel good about that Miami game. Now, I do not think Washington is last year's Miami. I think they're a lot better team. I still have enough confidence in Tucker to have this game seriously enough. What's going to ride on is Peyton Thorne fix his terrible inaccuracy that he's had the first 2 weeks and going back to that first week of the season. As long as he does that, I think that we do enough to be able to make it done. And I'm going to choose to give my quarterback a little bit of faith here. And I am going to take my Spartans, knowing that this is me praying because I do not feel confident in this pick. But I'm going to go with it. And I'm still going to claim it as this is not me being fanish. This is me still picking with my head, with me understanding there's probably a little bit of bias that's playing into that. So, Thomas, that is my in-depth take on this pick. Use what information I gave you as a will.
No, I appreciate that. That is some good insight. And I'll give you a little bit of a confidence boost here because I'll stick with you here. I think Michigan State gets this done. Part of the reason, you can't trust the Pac-12, right? New coach. Again, like you mentioned, both teams haven't been tested, but Washington has not been tested yet. The only reason that anybody would pick Washington at this point is Penix Jr. And we think that he is the better quarterback. But what so far, like you said, what you've seen from Peyton Thorne has not been the same quarterback from last year. So he needs to right that ship here. I think he plays up to the competition, plays a little bit better, and this defense makes a stand. Michigan State.
I'll throw another stat at you real quick, another reason why you can be concerned. Now, this is a conference as a whole thing. Big Ten against SEC or against Pac-12 opponents at Pac-12 teams. I don't remember the exact stat, but it's in the last 20 years. There's only been one win at Pac-12 schools. It's hard to travel out to the Pac-12. That's another reason.
At least this isn't the late game. It's not like 10 p.m.
Not
start.
their time. It's 7:30.
Yes, 7:30. So it's only a 4. Yeah,
and it's not in Tempe. We don't got to play in 115-degree heat like we had to in 2018. So I'll take the 65-degree heat in Seattle. Christian.
Yeah. One reason I was massively on Michigan State the past 2 weeks, last year, and then I'll add in this year from the first 2 weeks. Mel Tucker and Michigan State are 6-0 against the spread non-conference. He does not. There's a chip on his shoulder and the team's shoulder. Every game, there's not like a look ahead spot that you need to worry about or anything else like that, which is really impressive to see. That being the case, I will read you the lyrics to Bow Down to Washington because that is who I'm going to be taking. So heaven help the foes of Washington.
Go right through for MSU.
Of mighty Washington. Our teams are there with bells. Their fighting blood excels. It's harder to push them over the line than past the Dardanelles. So victory is the cry of Washington. Our leather lungs together with a rah, rah,
Can I
rah.
mute you? All right, I get it. It's a fair take. Like I said, I was on the cusp. I don't blame you at all. Mike,
I think the fact that the line is at -3 right now says a lot, with Michigan State being the ranked team, and just where the public is all over Michigan State, but it's still going the other way. So that definitely plays into it as well.
College football is a game against matchups, and even though I'd say in a lot of ways Michigan State's the better team, those key matchups, that's what gives me pause, and that's why I name those things off. So, Mike, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going Michigan State just for you, Kyle.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate the.
That's all.
I appreciate
that's it. That's all I got.
Is that a sympathy?
Out of sympathy. Eric, who you got here?
This is a toss-up. I really am struggling with this game. I really am. Obviously, one of the things I've seen in Tuck's career is that he travels like no other coach I've seen travel. If you do know the inwards of him, it's a business trip for these guys. Early curfew, meditation session, whatever it is. Tuck's got it going on. I am concerned about Peyton Thorne. I am. I really am. He's a little flustered. He has a great offensive line, which I think has helped him in many ways. But where I'm going to pick those guys from the Great Red Cedar there, Michigan State, is because Washington has two really big defensive players that are out. Alfulciano, I don't know if I said that right, who's a linebacker.
Sounds right.
And then safety Nunley. And these guys were dynamic last year, and they're both gone. And I think that's going to be a huge hole for Washington, the Huskies, to be able to fill. So I think Michigan State, with their great, offensive running backs, I think they're going to blow through those holes. The thing is that Michigan State cannot allow, let me just put this into context, cannot allow Washington to stay in this game. They've got to start strong. Their first two possessions, they need to make it happen. I don't mean through those two yellow poles. They got to put it in on the road. But I'm going victory for MSU. Just for you.
I appreciate you, buddy.
All right. Let me get into college picks. I'll get them pulled up on my computer here. So BYU, Oregon. I want to pick BYU. They've been playing so slow. It's kind of tough. I'm going to go with Oregon. I think Oregon grabs a win. And I think BYU just has still that slower offense. They're not able to push the ball, kind of like how they did this last week with Baylor. Baylor's not, in my mind, fantastic. I think Oregon grabs the win this week. Penn State, Auburn. I'm going to go Penn State. Miami, Texas A&M. I'm high on Miami this year. And I don't like picking Texas A&M to lose 2 games in a row, but I'm going to go Miami. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. Same with this next one, Michigan State, Washington. I really like Penix. I'm going Washington. I'm sorry, Kyle. And then Mississippi State, LSU. Give me Leach. Going Mississippi State.
Hello, Illegal Contact podcast group. We have some really good and fun matchups this week for college football and NFL. My picks are going to be between the BYU and Oregon game. I really think BYU is going to pull this one out at Oregon. BYU's looked really good in their first few games. Went on the road and beat a good Baylor team. Oregon, as we know, really struggled against Georgia in week 1. How about Oregon first 3 weeks and they scheduled 2 top 15 teams. Now, granted, BYU was top 25. They hadn't cracked the top 15 yet, but BYU's shown to be a good team. I like BYU in this matchup. Penn State and Auburn. I feel like I don't know too much about this Auburn team, but just looking at their first 2 games, looks like they've struggled a little bit. And it also looks like they've struggled with turnovers offensively. So I like this Penn State team to go into Auburn on the road and win. So I'm picking Penn State. They had a quality win already this year, first week of the season against Purdue, at Purdue. So they've been a little bit battle tested early on. And so that's why I'm going with the Nittany Lions. I like Penn State in that matchup. Next matchup is very interesting. Miami and Texas A&M. And we all know, of course, Texas A&M came in with huge hype started the season at number 6 and really laid an egg last week at home in College Station to App State, the Mountaineers. So, I fully expect Texas A&M to make a big turnaround this week, bounce back. I think that they overlooked App State for this game because I do think Miami is a solid ACC team this year, but I see Texas A&M handling business at home this go around. So I'm going with Texas A&M out of the SEC. And then next matchup is interesting as well. Michigan State and Washington. Honestly, Pac-12 has just not really shown too much so far this season. I know that last week Washington State did wind up beating Wisconsin at Wisconsin. So is that an indictment on Wisconsin, or is Washington State one of the few good Pac-12 teams? I guess time will tell there, but I like Michigan State in this matchup. I feel like defensively they've been very strong. They've had a few good showings in the first 2 weeks, and I like them to continue that trend. It may be a lower scoring game, but I like Michigan State to go on the road and win that one. And then lastly, we have Mississippi State and LSU. I know LSU, they dropped their game against Florida State. However, I know they had a walkover team last week, bounced back in a big way. But I think, Brian Kelly gets a lot of flack, and, we can debate whether or not he's a good guy or whatever, but he can coach. I think that LSU is going to wind up winning that game, especially since it's in Baton Rouge. So I feel like LSU should win that game. So yeah, that's my picks this week. We'll see how things go. I know last week was a lot of fun, and there were some upsets, but overall, I think we're in for another great week of college football.
Let's throw one more bonus pick in here between just to give you a chance to be able to talk your Wolverines for a second, and Thomas to be able to talk his UConn Huskies. Pull up what is the spread here? We're just gonna have you guys, the two of you, pick against the spread for
minus 47.5.
UConn. Minus 47.5. That's almost as much as the spread was last week against Hawaii. I lost money, by the way, on your Wolverines. I picked them to cover, and then they couldn't do anything in the second half, and yeah, I lost like $5.
Now I have to be very fair. Christian, you're a wonderful UConn. Is that right, Christian?
Thomas
you're the UConn guy.
Thomas is.
Thomas,
I'm
lives
sorry,
in Christian. With
Connecticut,
all due apologies. The only question I have to ask you, Thomas, again, it's in no disrespect to your wonderful university there, University of Connecticut, UConn. Is Randy Etzel still the coach there? I guess
Jim Mora.
Oh,
you've heard that name.
So,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I forgot the 2 times that he was there, not more. But anyways, no slight against you, but feel free to.
Oh man,
I'm sorry.
I have no defense. UConn football, when it comes, there's not much to say, but 47 points is a lot. 47, like you said, Kyle. 40. You saw that with 51 last week against Hawaii, and Hawaii ended up covering that. 47 points is a lot, and your offense really has to be clicking. Who's the starting quarterback? Who did they name? Is it JJ?
Oh, JJ.
Again?
It's JJ's.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Give me UConn. Their defense is slightly improved from last year. They'll put up 10 points and keep them to 45.
I think that's really good, Thomas, actually. And I'm sorry that I brought up Randy Etzel, a fan favorite of many. But he's a good guy. But yeah, I think, again, Michigan continues to be dominant. I think they're going to try some different things with Psycho Harbaugh as their coach. What I've been really impressed with is Michigan's defense. With Aiden Hutchinson leaving and the guy, I can't pronounce his name right now, who I really love. I wish I could say his name. Everybody was wondering, can Michigan fill those holes? Well, you can't do it, but you can emulate it a little bit. And the Michigan defense has done a fantastic job. So I'm excited to see them continue to roll, and I think they'll roll through UConn.
I think they probably will roll through UConn too, and maybe in 5 weeks you'll finally see a real test for an opponent, and
I think so.
see how things go. Well, Eric, hey, it was great having you on. I appreciate you coming on and doing the picture with us. So you do lead a podcast as well called Cougar Talk in Michigan. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about the show and where our viewers can find it.
Absolutely. Well, Cougar Talk was an inception a couple of years ago, and it kind of emulates my university that I used to attend, Spring Arbor University. It's a small NAIA school. But really, we just talk about different legends of the university. One that we talked to was, Coach Dean Lockwood, who's the assistant coach of the Michigan State University Spartans, and also coached with Pat Summitt. So I tell you that that was a real treat to hear from him. And also Bethany Balser, one of our soccer players who plays with OL Reign and is in the kind of the mix for the national team. But, Cougar Talk is not just about Spring Arbor athletics. It's really, honing in on some amazing stories of what people have done as athletes. Anyways, if you want to go check things out, you can go to our Twitter, which is Cougar Talk SA, and you can hear more about that. So, thanks for plugging that in.
Absolutely. So I can find you there on major platforms as well, too?
Yeah, all Google and Apple and Switcher, Spotify. So, check us out, Cougar Talk SA, to listen to some of these really cool podcasts and some of the things that are going on with some of these athletes. So, 6,500 hits so far. So it's been a lot of fun just to kind of be able to hear and talk. And really, Kyle, if I can kind of end with this, some of the best opportunities when you interview is, I never was an athlete. I put on a jersey here and wearing a Michigan jersey. I never played. I played watching the TV like many of us did and cheering for our athletes. But most of the podcast, 98% of it is them talking, former athletes and their experiences that they had. So it's been a real treat, and we're excited to maybe go about 7,000 hits here as we kind of retool the podcast and redo it starting in January with our season 3.
Awesome. Look forward to hearing it, and we'll definitely make sure to check it out. Eric, again, thanks for coming on. It was great having you tonight. We thanks for your insight and your picks, and hopefully we'll get you back again someday. Oddly enough, so Cougar Talk being Spring Arbor University, 3 of us, me, Christian, and Thomas, our former boss is now in the head of the online division for Spring Arbor University and Luke Urbani. So, connections awesome. There of bringing the two together. Seven. Not even. This is 3 layers of a connection there. So
that's cool.
All right, great. Again, Eric, thanks for coming on, and hope to have you again, all right?
Absolutely. I look forward to connecting with you guys again. And, hey, college football, let's savor this one, right?
That's right. Absolutely. All right, thanks again, Eric.
Take care, guys.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for our college football edition for this portion of the show. With those of you who are listening for this portion, thanks for tuning in. We are going to go ahead and start talking about NFL as we transition into the rest of the show. So week 1 of the NFL, boys, definitely a lot of craziness took place in there. You Jets fans, now we only have to have one of you talk because Jared's not here.
This is great. Oh, I love it.
Let's just go right to that. We'll go ahead and start with the fan perspective, right from the Jets side of things. Thomas, how does it feel to be ranked in the ESPN Power Rankings, number 32 of 32 NFL teams, again after week 1?
All right. That will change. That's all I have to say. That will change. I don't agree with that. However, it is hard to argue Joe Flacco and that offense and how inept they look. But really, it's very conflicted. It really was. It was a very positive first half. And there's a lot of positives that you can take. Thank you, Christian, for singling out the Jets on your whiteboard. I'll start with the positives as far as defense. They held Lamar and that offense to the least amount of rushing yards that team has had in the Lamar Jackson era. I think Lamar had less than 30 yards total. The team as a whole had less than 70 yards. That's the least amount of rushing yards a Baltimore team has had with Lamar Jackson. So that's very, a strong positive on the defensive side. Again, all of your rookies showed up. Sauce Gardner looked amazing, and the grading from PFF showed that. DJ Reed looked amazing. He had an interception coming from Seattle. He was the number 1 rated cornerback from PFF. So defense looked very strong. A few broken plays here and there, which has resulted in a couple of turnovers, but the offense gave them no help, which ultimately resulted in a very winded defense. I really put this on the coaching. Saleh looked inept. Mike LaFleur made 0 adjustments. And again, they came out and said, this is the same offensive plan as that we would have with Zach Wilson. And that's a mistake because 37-year-old Joe Flacco and 22-year-old Zach Wilson are very different quarterbacks. So if you don't make adjustments there, there's a problem. So ultimately, there are things that are encouraging. And until I see Zach Wilson on the field, I don't see much changing as far as the offense.
I'll give you that. I will give you not having Zach Wilson definitely hurt you a lot. I don't think you would have won this game anyway. Baltimore is a very, very good team.
They weren't expected to win this, but the defense showed that they could have stayed in this game a lot longer if they had a competent offense. And they have some great weapons and a couple of good running backs. So if you get average play out of your quarterback and average play calling out of your offensive coordinator, this would have been a very close game because the defense held up until the end when it kind of fell off.
Yeah, definitely. And again, in your defense, I think better days are definitely ahead for the New York Jets underneath the Saleh. I will say, interesting for his little bit of he's taken down the names of all those doubters.
He's getting feisty. He's getting
better
feisty.
Believe that he's coming. So
he's got the receipts. Hey, Kyle, you like receipts? He's got the receipts.
I do like receipts, and hey, he's from somebody else who has Michigan State pedigree background. I want to see him succeed. So I hope that he does. Christian and Mike, you guys can both kind of talk in this. Now, Christian, I said to Mike last week, because during our pick for the Browns and Panthers, I picked the Browns, and he pointed out that Browns don't have a quarterback. And I said, yeah, but Carolina doesn't have a coach. So that's fair. And I think you would probably agree, as you said most of last year, that played out again this past week, did it not?
It did. Unfortunately, it did. Yeah, that they had me. They had me locked in, ready to go. They lost me. They wrote me back in, and then just lost it once again at the end. So disappointing. And yeah, I think ultimately the issues do stem back to Rule. The offense took a while to gel. Fine. It's understandable. Whatever. That first half was ugly. But Baker looked pretty impressive the second half. I was happy with it. It wasn't Sam Darnold out there, and you could tell the difference. You could actually tell there was growth and progression throughout the game and confidence. So that was really encouraging. Just the coaching is not there. And unfortunately that's going to be the case. So, yeah, my thinking, and I feel like most people's thinking in Charlotte was, well, Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback, as you said. And then, as you also said, we don't have a coach, so it doesn't really matter.
Or an offensive coordinator. I'll add that. It's Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo.
Well, he's a good quarterback coach, but as an offensive coordinator, that's a different story.
We say that, but it was because he was what with Aaron Rodgers, right?
Well, yeah, but because he's found multiple guys and said oh, they're going to be good and actually turn out to something. So he at least has an eye for a quarterback, if nothing else.
Well, not running back apparently, because Christian McCaffrey had 7 rushing attempts the whole game.
I think that Matt Rule forgot that he has Christian McCaffrey. I think that's really what it was. He just forgot that he was healthy and not off IR. And
they did say they were going to try to back off a lot of the runs this year. I think that'll change some, but they shouldn't run them 30 times a game. by no means. But yeah, 10 was not enough. And I mean, some of it was being behind. But yeah, it wasn't a good coaching performance at all. There was positives. I mean, the defense looked all right. That there were shaky moments. They almost held that last drive. I mean, the Browns had to make a really impressive kick to win that game, which I wish any other kicker was from week 1 of NFL was kicking for the Browns, but so be it. So yeah, overall, the players are a good core for next year. And that's yeah.
Christian, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told all my Lions friends last year, and I wish they would have listened to me. Actually, I don't, because I don't care for the Lions. Whatever. What I told them all, you know, underneath a Matt Rule, you're not going to win anything. You know, you're not going to win the division. You're not going to get in the playoffs. So why cheer for any wins? It only hurts you. You embrace the suck. Let them have a bad year. Get Matt Rule out of there. Get yourself the best possible draft pick possible, and then hold on for the future. Just embrace knowing that you didn't really have hopes in Matt Rule being able to do anything anyway. And so once this happened, just take it. Embrace
this
it.
coming from a Cowboys fan.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. I mean, I will.
He's really
say,
just saying this himself.
They got my hopes up.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they got my hopes up. I was thinking like, okay, maybe with some of the coaching changes, we've got rid of a couple of Rules friends, brought in some actual like guys who have been in the NFL at least, and bringing in Baker and some of the pieces, actually bringing in some pieces on the offensive line, which looked better. Ike Ekwonu had struggle moments, but I mean, he's a rookie. It's going to happen. Regardless, they had my hopes up that, you know, despite Rule, he can learn some things. He can lean on some others, and it could be, I don't know, around 500 season. I don't want to overact too much. Like, there's a chance it still could be. I think if that's the case, he's still gone. I think Tepper's expectation is playoffs or you're gone after this year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, they got my hopes up, which was dumb. Because Matt Rule is still there. And
yeah, I think the first couple of weeks are going to be rough for the Panthers, but I think as Baker starts playing with them more and they start to gel, hopefully as a team, and hopefully everybody stays healthy, the second half of the season will hopefully look better than what we're looking at. Because they didn't look bad. I mean, that first half was terrible. I was like there were points I found, because like, I'm not saying I'm a Browns fan, but I like Baker Mayfield. So I was rooting for the Browns. So while I was watching the game, I found myself rooting for the Browns, but having to remind myself that Baker Mayfield doesn't play for them anymore. But I just think, like I said, that the first half was terrible, but that second half, that showed the potential for what the team could be. And like you said, I mean, had they not have made that field goal, this conversation would be going a different way right now. Mm. So I think overall, I think it's going to be rough to start, but hopefully as the season progresses and they start to gel as a team, and you know, everybody stays healthy, hopefully it'll look better on the second half.
Yeah, I mean, just to wrap it up, I mean, just in my thoughts overall, like there's promising points. I mean, I think that Baker DJ Moore connection is going to be really solid. Brown's really focused on DJ Moore. And I mean, he only had 3 receptions, 43 yards. And despite that, Robbie Anderson, who we all know, all the fun stuff between him and Baker in the past, he had 5 receptions and 102 yards and a touchdown. So I mean, there are bright spots on this offense. But again, one more time, it's just the season. We'll see actually what happens with it.
One thing that I'll counter Mike's part is that I don't think Rule showed it last year. He would never give one quarterback enough time to be able to get a roll and get going. And I think that probably may have some.
I don't think he'll switch off Baker.
Yeah, same.
I don't think that. I mean, Corral's out for the
I would
season,
hope
the
not.
only option would be Darnold, and I can't see that happening.
Darnold's hurt for at least another month.
Yeah.
So no, they're not
Yeah,
changing.
so
That's fair.
I think Baker has time to prove himself. I think he has time to gel with the team and hopefully bring up camaraderie. That's not the word I wanted to use. What's the word I'm looking for? Morale. Hopefully bring up morale and, really encourage them to go out and be the best players they can be, both on and off the field, so that, they can be successful on the field. But yeah, I think.
All right,
I think
Kyle. Let me
this is
tee up. Let me tee up the Cowboys for you. Let me tee up the Cowboys here for you because Sunday night football. Well, all right, go. You want it? We'll just let you loose,
No,
man.
go ahead.
Here, let me actually set up Kyle real quick.
All right, go for it.
Who would you rather have, Matt Rule or Mike McCarthy? Go.
It's a great question.
Is Satan an option?
Jerry Jones himself will be coach.
No. I mean, bring me in Matt Patricia at the Lions, and I think it'll almost be better than what this is. Thomas, say what you're going to say. Go ahead. You can set it up.
No, so just as far as the only team that didn't score a touchdown all week ended up being Dallas. Now you have your quarterback out for 6 to 8 weeks, but the team refuses to put him on IR. Does not have another
maybe 4.
Oh, sorry. They're going to rush him back, and he's going to get hurt after another week. Yeah, Jerry's going to rush him back, and he's going to get hurt again, which is great. So as far as Cooper Rush now for another month or two, any excitement? Any reason to keep Mike McCarthy on for the full year?
No, there wasn't a reason to keep him on for this year.
Wait, what happened to Dak?
Dak broke his
broken
hand,
thumb.
essentially.
Surgery.
Yep. Had 2 plays in a row where his hand got hit because
not that he looked good. Not that he looked good the whole game, but it's still not Cooper Rush.
So I'll go with my assessment on why, and then I'll give the actual talk here in a second on my opinions and where I'm at. So Dak did not look good regardless. Dak was missing having Amari Cooper there. So going back to Jared, when you're listening to this, for me saying that it was a good signing, I think this proves again how good of a signing it really was when we brought Amari Cooper in, how big of a difference he actually did make on that team. I'm not saying with Amari Cooper they win that game, but without Amari Cooper there, CeeDee Lamb was doubled the whole time, and he couldn't. Schultz had to stay in protection because, I mean, he still got some targets and got some yards, but Schultz had to stay in protection a whole more because, again, I was wrong. I said they'd be fine without Tyrone Smith, and they're not okay without Tyrone Smith.
Well, now they have another injury.
And now the other rookie, Tyler Smith, right? He played decently well for coming in, but it definitely wasn't Tyrone Smith. And so, again, you had to keep Dalton Schultz, who never could have been a blanket for him to throw to underneath. And the one play when I wished that Zeke would have been in there to pick up that linebacker blitz came in, and I mean, Pollard tried to, but Pollard's not a blocking running back, so he got completely lit up there. It was definite evident to see that without Dak having the weapons around him that he's had before and having that offensive line, he is definitely not the quarterback that he has been propped up to. He is not the – how many million is he getting in a year? $33 million? He is not the $33 million quarterback. I said we should not have paid him back there. Not that he's not a good quarterback. You should not have sunk all your money into Dak and Zeke. That's all our money is there, and we're locked in this for at
which
least
is why they got
years.
rid of Amari. Which is why they got rid of Amari for a 6th-round pick because of money.
Right?
It was all
he
money
did a terrible
related.
job. So yes, I want Mike McCarthy gone. That was my post. I said that. I tweeted you guys, and I said, like, definitely, like, for starters, Mike McCarthy's got to go. And then, as much as everybody loves up Kellen Moore's got to go. You start with leadership that you can control there. However, even with McCarthy gone, even with Kellen Moore gone, I don't trust Jerry any more than I trust the Ford family to do anything right. It's just proven over and over and over again. Like I have criticized the Ford ownership and the Lions for the same thing that I am now turning on and say, I'm completely Jerry. I'm done. Like, nope, this is it. Like, as long as Jerry's still making the calls, I do not have faith currently until you give me other reason to believe that he can make a hire and then head coaching hire. Even you bring in Sean Payton, say, I still don't think you're going to be able to do enough to give the weapons set up the best way for Sean Payton to be able to be successful.
Well, can you get
Maybe
a real
you have
GM
a season where you get to go to a, what was that?
Can you get a real GM as well if you're going to bring in a coach?
The GM's his son. Like,
I know. Can you get a real GM?
That's what you'd have to do. You'd have to bring in a real GM. Like, you'd have to be willing to hand over the reins. And Jerry is not going to do that. Jerry likes being involved. It's why when he first came in and he brought in Jimmy Johnson controlled it all and had huge success because that was off the wall. Jerry wanted to have a big part of that, wanted a bigger say, and so he got rid of Jimmy. And yeah, we still won one more Super Bowl that was still built on the back of Jimmy, what he did since 1996. There hasn't been really anything. And I've held out.
Kyle,
I have been there. I have said I could never. I've said I could never bail on my team. I'm way too much of a loyal fan to be able to stand there. And so I have threatened this so many times. I have said it so many times that my NFL fandom was going to be up for free agency. So here I am tonight on the Illegal Contact podcast to announce that I am I am temporarily looking to sign with another team. I know that's not a real thing. I want to come back to the Cowboys someday eventually, but I'm so tired of playing in this. I am at the point in time where I am stepping away from Cowboys fandom until I see evidence that things have changed.
I don't like this, Kyle.
It is. I cannot keep throwing my support for this team. I was looking at buying, again, self-brag for a second. I've lost 117 pounds over the last year. I can now buy a Dallas Cowboys jersey and fit into. Am I going to? Nope. So I'm not spending any money on the fan shop. I am throwing my support to another team. So I have talked about maybe becoming a pseudo Panthers fan just because of proximity, and I love the city of Charlotte, and I love being down there. I have thrown out being a Bills fan just because I've always kind of been drawn to the Bills. We beat them 2 times in the Super Bowl. I like what's going on in Buffalo right now. But here's the thing. I'm a diehard Michigan State fan. That is where, as much as I talk about this and I'm upset about it, even with the Cowboys stinking as bad as they did, I was over it by Monday morning. My love is Michigan State football, bar none. And nobody has given me more love in my life for Michigan State football and brought things to me that I did not see than the great human being that was at Michigan State, Kirk Cousins. So I am hereby for the 2022 season throwing my entire fandom and everything that I cheer for at the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins. That's probably a death sentence. I say that now. You watch, the Cowboys are somehow going to turn it around and build a successful season, all because I go off this. It's going to be karma, something like that, and the Vikings will probably bow down. But for the foreseeable future, as long as Kirk Cousins is at the Minnesota Vikings, I am hereby a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Oh, there is a thin line here, Kyle. There is a thin line here.
You could have made it easy and choose a bad team. But
No. I'm saying
he did say the Panthers.
I'm saying if you're giving up the Cowboys, you got to give it up. There's no flip-flopping. I am not a fan of people switching fandoms. And if you're going to give up the Cowboys, but if I
can't completely throw it away. Like
if I've never given up on the Jets, then you have no reason to give up on the Cowboys. Although we have more wins in the playoffs since 2000 than the Cowboys.
Thank you.
But
one?
We have like 5 wins. Okay.
I went to the AFC Championship that one year.
Twice. Back to back.
Who was the quarterback then? Sanchez. Football.
Kyle, if you're going to do this, which I advise not to, if you're going to give up your fandom, it has to be permanent. I'm sorry. There's no flip-flopping. You have to declare. If you're going to give up your fandom, it has to be a permanent decision. There are no flip-flopping. You cannot go back to the Dallas Cowboys. Because
Or
then you are a bandwagon fan.
Can it not just be a Dallas Cowboys strike? Can it not just be a Dallas Cowboys strike?
Yes, you can.
I would think that's
but
more,
then you
that's
cannot
more
say I am a
possible.
fan.
I would say that's
you
more
are a
possible
fan of
for
the
a team
Vikings.
that you like Thomas with the Jets. I would give Thomas more permission to say, I'm going on strike for a season for this team because he has the location. That's why he's like a Jets fan a decent amount of the reason. Yes, Thomas?
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Kyle,
yes.
there's no location that you're part of.
Yeah, but my dad was a Cowboys fan that took after him. That's why. So
okay.
But was he a
It goes back to
Cowboys
roots.
fan before the 90s?
Yes, my dad was a Cowboys fan
Yes.
growing up during the era of Tom Landry, Roger Staubach.
Yeah, Tom Landry, bandwagon, still.
Yes, but
Your dad
Kyle
was
was not.
bandwagon.
Kyle was born into it. But Kyle was born into
it.
it. He's always been a Cowboys fan. So if he's going to give up that fandom, then it has to be permanent. So Kyle, you can go on a strike and you can root for the Vikings, but you cannot be a fan of the Vikings. That is my
Okay.
parameter. That is my suggestion.
I am for the 2022 season. I am on strike from the Dallas Cowboys, and I am cheering for Kirk
Okay.
Cousins
Better.
mostly. And because
See?
he's on the Vikings,
Better.
I pseudo them and a Vikings fan because I have to cheer for Kirk Cousins.
So you're taking after my lead. See, I don't really root for a team. I just like certain players. And then when I watch games, I hope that they do really well. For example, I
Gen
like
Z
Baker
over here.
Mayfield. And I like the Panthers. Don't get me wrong, but I don't call myself a Panthers fan. But I'm like, I hope the Panthers win today because I want to see Baker Mayfield do well. type
Like,
of
what are you,
situation.
12?
Well, regardless of what
Yes.
happens with
Yes,
the
have you
as
not
long as I
met
live in
me?
the South, as long as I live in the South, I am going to have a soft spot at least for the Panthers. I like Charlotte. There's enough there. I won't say I'm going to be like a huge fan, but I'll support them.
I do have a couple other suggestions for you. If you're going to go the Michigan State route, you could still choose a less successful team.
I could.
Currently with
also
a
choose LA
Michigan
for Curry.
State player. You could go with the Seahawks, Geno Smith, but the Kenneth Walker connection. That's an option. You could go the New England Patriots with the new starting quarterback Brian Hoyer.
No,
Is
nobody
Hoyer
will
starting
call
now?
you.
Is Hoyer going to start again?
We're
Matt
not
Jones
sure.
is out.
Well, Mac Jones got hurt.
He is up in the air for week 2, but he does have a back injury.
Yeah.
So
Thomas has probably heard this story before. I served Brian Hoyer at Applebee's multiple times. Every Sunday night, the NFL, the offensive
Good
side of the
tipper?
ball. would
good
come
tipper.
in. They all were.
There you go. Good to hear.
They all were. They were great to win in. I love them coming in. Packed it away.
great.
Pete Clifford from not far from where you're from was an offensive lineman for Michigan State, and he would come in, and he was one of the first ones in, and he'd always say my name, everything super nice. Help me put tables together. He was one of the first ones there. That boy was an offensive lineman, and he would order. I can't remember what. It was a lot of food, and packed it away.
Imagine serving them now with NIL money.
Oh yeah, I might have gotten even more tips at that point in time.
Exactly.
So. Yes, they were all very good tippers. Javon Ringer, if you remember Javon Ringer.
So Kyle, no Denver after last night. Not jumping on that Denver Broncos bandwagon.
I never would jump on the Denver. I mean, Denver's one of those teams I don't hate. Like I pulled for Denver when it was Peyton Manning there, but I'm not going to jump on.
You don't want to jump from Mike McCarthy to Nathaniel Hackett?
There are other teams besides the Cowboys that I would be willing to spend money on apparel for. Is what I'm.
No, see, that's the line right there.
Ooh.
You can go on strike and you can root for a team, but you cannot spend money on another team.
I can't go buy a Kirk Cousins jersey.
You can buy Michigan State Kirk Cousins jersey, but if you're going to buy Vikings paraphernalia, I'm going to call you a fraud. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you a fan fraud.
Yeah, that's really bold.
You're with me, Christian?
Question about Mike McCarthy.
You're with me, or you're calling?
No, I'm with you. I was saying.
Okay, thank you.
This was not supposed to be a segment, listeners. Just so you know, I meant this to be a real quick thing, and this has turned into a whole segment. So this is unplanned, off the cuff.
So, question about Mike McCarthy: did he leave Green Bay, or did
he
they
got
ask
fired?
him to leave? Okay, I couldn't.
They asked him.
I couldn't remember because
I pretended to be excited when we hired him to replace Scared because he was a Super Bowl winning coach. But deep inside, I knew.
It was all Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So I am. We'll see. You may see me with a Minnesota Vikings hat on this year, and you may call me a fraud. So
If you're fine with
And
that, then that's up to you.
I was our listen, and before any of this, before I even said anything about giving up and striking on the Cowboys for the year, I said I was going to, and I've looked at buying Carolina Panthers stuff because I will cheer for the Carolina Panthers down here when they're not playing Dallas because it's suited there. So I don't
I
think I'm a
will
hypocrite saying
allow
that because I would have done that anyway.
one Vikings T-shirt with Kirk Cousins' name on it somewhere. And that's all.
T-shirt, but not jersey.
Yes. I think that's a good line.
All right, let's bring it back. Now let me finish on the Cowboys then real quick. So, yes, didn't have super high hopes, but I thought they were going to win the division. I had enough reason to believe they're still going to be good because that defense is good. I have zero faith in anything being productive in the season. Their schedule is going to be brutal. Nope. Done. So that's that. I don't think it's an overreaction. Let's move into our week one classic overreactions for week one. I'll go first. My overreaction is from last night's Monday Night Football game. Everybody got what's the new head coach at Denver's name?
Nathaniel Hackett.
Everybody got on. Can't believe in that Hackett did what he did. Now, I believe it's probably not. It was not the right call. I think that he definitely should have chose to try to go for it.
He said that today. He came back and said, "Yeah, he's like, I shouldn't have done that. You guys were right."
Okay, well, still, so hindsight's 20/20. So that can be the case. The overreaction I feel like has been saying that he didn't have faith in the quarterback they just signed or traded for and giving up the picks and letting Russ be able to take it. I think that's an overreaction. McManus is an incredible kicker who had the NFL record for field goals, had already looked great all night. I would say that it is not lack of faith in Russ as it is they had that much faith in McManus. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to say that it was the end that didn't have faith in Russ to make it happen. He just had enough faith in McManus that he was more confident in that. So that's my overreaction for week one.
So, yeah, my intention for this segment was that bring up an overreaction and then the rest of us quickly say if we agree with you or if we think the overreaction is true. So I will actually slightly disagree with you there and say overreaction, there is some merit to that. If it's game one and you're already doing this against a bad Seattle team, bad defense without Jamal Adams, and this defense is not talented to say the least. If you're already doing this in week one, there are some trust issues, and I think there is some merit to this overreaction.
Is it trust issues in Russ? Or
I think
offensive line to be able to get a chance for Russ to be able to get it?
No, ultimately it's Russ. I think there's a trust issue with the relationship, communication breakdown. He said something after the game where he thought that Russ wasn't moving the ball well enough in that last drive, which there might have been some truth to, but still he was moving it with ease most of the game, and most of their issues were in the red zone with the run game and the play calling. So there is a disconnect between coach and QB that I will need to see evidence as the season goes along before I think that the overreaction is not an overreaction. If that makes sense.
Christian?
Yeah, I'm with Thomas. I think the overreaction is somewhat warranted. I mean, piggybacking off of Thomas, I think he foolishly tried to show Russ trust earlier in the game when they went shotgun from the 1 yard line 2 plays in a row. And then because that didn't work, he lost the trust, which is just dumb. You don't go shotgun. We've seen that in college the past couple of weeks a ton. When you're on the 1 yard line, when it's 4th and inches, you sneak the ball. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go shotgun.
What game was that we were watching? I said the same thing. I said I hate when they on 4th and whatever, you don't line up under center. Yeah, you're right.
Makes zero sense. But regardless of that, so there's clear. I mean, Russ probably wasn't even bought into that play. I mean, he's had his fair share of fun things at the 1 yard line and coaches. But that being the case, I think that then filtered into the decision at the end of the game. So because of that, if the coach is going to be swayed that easily because of his own bad play calling, I think there's definitely issues there. And for him to come out and say, one, put some blame on Russ for plays like in that drive, and then two, say my decision was wrong. I mean, good. I'm glad you're self-assessing, I guess, but ultimately, he's going to grow as a coach. But it was concerning. So I think overreaction is warranted.
Mike, anything to add to that?
I didn't watch the game, but I'm just outright outraged. How dare they do whatever they did?
Mike's sports knowledge is dwindling.
I meant
11:15 on Tuesday.
I meant to watch the game. There's just a lot going on in my family circle right now, and I'm babysitting babies and taking people places. So it's just I went to bed early last night. So that's what that was.
All right, Thomas. Let's move on to what is your overreaction?
I think we can all agree here. I'll be surprised, mainly because a lot of our common interest at the beginning of this podcast had to do with the Patriots. My overreaction is the Patriots are dead, the dynasty is over, and they will be below 500. I saw a very below average team week 1. They looked badly coached, ill prepared, terrible on offense. You know, Bill Belichick always gives them a floor that they're not going to be a 4-win team, but this is a below 500 team. I think we can finally say the Bill Belichick Patriot dynasty is over.
Okay. Dynasty is over. Yes. I think as much as I think that even though Tom Brady has had success at Tampa, I still think that dynasty was built both on Belichick and Brady, and that could not have had what they had with one without the other. I think it was both yes. Combined on there. Tom Brady went to a much better situation than what Bill Belichick got left with. So I think that
wait, got left with who's the GM of the Patriots? Who got rid of Brady? Who forced Brady out?
He didn't force Brady out.
No. Who forced him out?
I don't think Brady got forced out.
No, he got forced out because he felt unwanted and they didn't want to pay him.
Forced is a strong word.
No, it was Belichick.
Forced is a strong word.
Pushed him out the door.
Pushed him out the door? Slightly nudged in a different direction because he knew he wanted to try to rebuild and move on, which I can't necessarily blame him for. Because be honest, if Brady had stayed there, do you really think this Patriots team would be a whole lot different? I don't.
There would be a floor there that isn't there now, and it would.
I can agree with that. I think they'd be.
But that was a series. That was a series of decisions. That started a series of decisions, roster and coaching management, that have been head scratchers. That if it was anybody else other than Belichick, we'd think this guy should be fired immediately. Like any other coach making these decisions over the last 4 years, let alone him being GM, would have gotten whoever that person was fired. But because he's Belichick and he still brings a floor there where the team overperformed last year to a good degree, but roster performance, coaching decisions, Matt Patricia calling plays during week 1. I'm sorry. The Bill Belichick as we know it era is over. This team is not a 500 team.
I would agree. I would agree with that, but I would agree that the era was over before this year. I would say. I think.
Yeah, but they made the playoffs last year and won 10 wins, and this is the real bottom.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. Definitely below 500 team. I mean, they're probably looking at a top 10, top 7 draft pick. I mean, I agree there's a floor there, but with the offense looking the way it is, defense is meh. The offensive play callers, all of it. Yeah, it's just not a good team. It's not a good team with a good coach that's going to help them win the games. Not calling the Panthers a great team, but a little bit opposite of the Panther situation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Christian, what's yours?
Yeah, overreaction from week 1. Call of Duty and Kyler Murray are more of the problem in Arizona than Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh man, that's a good one. So, man, all right, I'm gonna say warranted. And it's because of a TikTok video that I watched. A guy broke it down and showed the stats of how
And
every
the
Call
new
of Duty
game
come
just
out.
dropped.
Like I think I watched it last night. I think is when I saw it. Might have been early this morning.
I sent
But
in the
yeah,
chat the other day, but it's fine.
yeah, that's right. You sent it in the chat. That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't on TikTok. I wasn't being a sinner and being on TikTok. It was because you sent it to me. You were the sinner who sent it my direction. Um, I'm gonna say valid. It definitely looks that way. That his priorities may not be where they need to be at to be able to be ready to go for that next week. And so, yeah, I will agree that is a warranted reaction. It's not an overreaction.
But do you think it's more of the issue than Cliff Kingsbury?
Yes.
Okay. Thomas?
Oh man, is that tough? Oh
Yeah.
man, I still haven't made up my mind. You know what? I agree. I think I agree more than I don't agree. So I think you're right. I really do. Now, does Cliff Kingsbury, does he? I can't even. Does Coach Cliff have his issues? Yes. He doesn't seem to motivate and prepare enough at the NFL level, and it doesn't seem like he makes necessary adjustments. However, he does have an offensive scheme that is an above average offensive scheme. And the way that Kyler is projecting is worse and worse each year. And we're seeing less of that top end talent and focus in a way that maybe it's Call of Duty, maybe it's something else, but there is something not clicking with Kyler. I think that is more of the issue than Cliff.
He wishes he would have gone baseball instead of football.
I was gonna say baseball. He would have been able to do that, no problem.
I still think he made the right decision in going to NFL because as good as he looked in baseball, money. It's baseball is probably the hardest sport to be able to get to a level of success that you're able to even get at in football. I mean, way less positions to be able to get to, way less of a roster size for
we think quarterbacks in the first round are tough to evaluate. Just look at the first round picks in baseball.
Baseball, yeah, exactly. That is the hardest. So it's definitely you're a safer bet making sure you're going to go where you get the guaranteed money than taking a risk of you really don't know what could happen as far as baseball goes. So, Mike, do you have any overreactions from week 1, or should we move on down the line?
I do have a question though.
Yes.
Just by context clues, I'm assuming Kyler Murray is more worried about playing Call of Duty than
we will send you the video.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I have no context.
There's a video basically showing the correlation between when a Call of Duty game drops or double XP weekends and Kyler Murray's performance on the field that weekend.
And a clause in his contract that had to do with.
Now, it got taken out as far as what we saw. Like that clause wasn't there, but that clause was originally there as to he had to devote and have a tutor to make sure that he was doing self-study as part of his contract. That was probably put there, and they mentioned this in the video, to embarrass Kyler to take this more seriously. Don't think it worked based on what we at least saw this past weekend.
All right, last question just on that. I just thought of this, and just to run it back to what we talked about in college football, could Kingsbury succeed at Nebraska?
Ooh. As much as anybody could, probably.
I mean, Lubbock isn't that much better than Lincoln, probably.
No. Nope.
And I haven't been to either, but I can't say I've heard of much to do in Lubbock. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting.
Definitely, that's a name to. If things probably won't happen, because my guess is before Kingsbury's going to be let go of Arizona. I'm sure that Nebraska will have a coach contract sealed up, signed, delivered
sure.
by that point in time. So, all right, let's roll into our NFL picks here for week number 2. Now, week number 1, I'm going to brag on myself here. I rolled until that Packers game because the Vikings definitely did very well, and the Packers are not what they were. But me and Peyton both were 4-1 last week in picks. Followed up then by Christian at 3-2, and then Mike, you and Jared
What were
came
the two
in
that I
at
missed?
2 and 3, and Thomas, you had the Eagles-Lions game right. So, way to go, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, let's leave it there.
All right.
Kyle,
so,
what were the two I missed?
What were the two that you missed? You missed the Panthers,
Right.
Christian, I said the wrong. I said it wrong. You were 4-1. I don't know how I wrote that down that way.
Thank you. I
need
was
to
gonna
fix
say,
this.
I was like, I thought I was 4-1.
I didn't mean to cheap you.
It's okay. It's okay.
You were 4-1 as well. Yeah.
What did I get
Peyton.
right and what did I get wrong? I
You
know I
had
got
the
I got Packers Vikings wrong. I got Panthers
Browns
Browns wrong. I don't remember the other 3.
You got Bills Rams wrong.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Christian and I were the only ones who picked the Bills
Gotcha.
in that one. Good job, buddy. Thomas, yeah, good job with that Lions pick.
Thank you.
Let's hope you do better this week.
Thank you. Are we doing spread this week or no?
So I think let's just keep
Straight
going
up.
head to head.
Let's do it.
Because we're doing our other spread things for the bet side that we'll get to in a second here. Let's just stick to head to head.
All right, I like it.
That was my
Give me a
plan.
better chance.
When we put the format together, you didn't mention on there anything about it being spread, so I'm like, we're just going to go spread on there. All right, so Bucks at Saints. I'll kick us off here for this one. I'm gonna take the Bucks. I think that defense is really good. I don't think the offense is super great at Tampa. A lot of weapons around. I think Brady's definitely aging and it's showing. He looked okay, but it's definitely not Brady anymore. Like this year is definitely a drop off, and I think he made a mistake in coming back. Not going to be what it was offensively, but the defense is very good at Tampa Bay, and I think the Saints are a good team, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to be able to beat the division rival this week. So I'm taking the Bucks. We have Jared and Peyton's picks. We'll get here in a few minutes. Thomas, you're going to be next.
This one's tricky because I believe the Saints are 3-0 against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers since he's joined that team. So he has yet to beat New Orleans, but I'm with you. I think he gets it done this time. I actually disagree that I haven't seen too much of a drop off in week 1. His arm looked pretty lively still. We know the mobility. I think the offensive line is going to eat away at him eventually, but I think he gets it done. Julio looks a little bit better than we saw recently, and he's kind of revitalized there. Leonard Fournette looks like a top 5 running back when he's healthy, and he's healthy right now. Like you said, it got a couple weapons. Godwin will be out most likely, which is a big hit. But I think it's hard for any team to go 4-0 against one team, let alone a Tom Brady-led team. So I think this ends the reign for Jameis, and Tom Brady gets the win.
To go back on what you said real quick, I felt like I noticed him missing Gronk a lot last week. This last weekend, he was able to hit. It felt like he was able to hit a lot up the sides, and
nothing up the middle.
Nothing up the middle really. So he wasn't getting those crossing patterns. That's typical Tom Brady hitting the. I mean, his yards per attempt is way down there for all-time QBs because that's where he's lived. Is across the middle, hitting tight ends, hitting running backs, hitting small receivers in the slot.
They don't have that this year.
They don't have that. That's why I think you're going to see a little bit of a drop off, and not having the offensive line. Sure, his arm strength was there still, but and the accuracy was there.
That's
but again,
good. No,
you're not.
I can agree with you there.
So.
I can agree with you there.
All right, Christian, you're next.
Yeah, same page as you guys for the most part. I do think, Brady as a whole looks good. I agree with missing Gronk. I agree with the O-line, and without speculating too much, I think off the field things could play a role in him struggling a bit this season as well. So that's reality. That's another factor. That being the case, I was not impressed by the Saints last week at all. I don't know if anybody would be. Jameis is so hit or miss. As we said as well, I know New Orleans has had success against Tom Brady in the past with him in Tampa, but I see Tampa getting it done. Tampa's a team that I don't know how I feel about them this year, especially with the O-line problems. If the rest of the division wasn't just awful, I'd be picking another team to win the division this year as well.
I'm still picking to win the division.
Right, because of how bad everybody else is, I'm still taking the Bucs, but that it's not about the Bucs.
They had another injury on the offensive line in week 1.
Yeah.
Donovan Smith left the game, and now it's like a pain tolerance issue. He might miss some time. So that's your left tackle, which was one of the 2 remaining starters other than Worse. Yeah. So that's also an issue where you might have 4 new offensive linemen next week if he can't go.
Jeez. So that being said, I'm still taking Tampa, but I'm not sold on them. I do not think they're going back to the Super Bowl or even far in the playoffs or anything like that.
Mike, what do you got?
I'm going with the Bucs. Anybody that's down against the Falcons at halftime, it's just probably not going to be a good season overall. Sure, they came back and beat the Falcons, but
that was the Saints. Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. You're saying the Saints.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, sure, the Saints came back and beat the Falcons, but anybody that was trailing to the Falcons, it's probably just not going to be a very good season. So I'm going with the Bucs.
First half of my fantasy team, Jameis was -3. Finished the game with 29.5 points. So thank you, Jameis Winston. Why I drafted him, because I knew he may look bad, he's always able to turn it on.
Dennis Allen scares me as the coach without Sean Payton now. I'm a little scared. Yeah.
All right. So we'll go to NFC North matchup. The Bears and Packers, big historical rivalry up there. This is a hard one. This is a real hard one. Yes, it is.
It's not.
I'm with Kyle.
No, come on. Stop.
I don't know which way you're even going. I can't even tell which way you're saying I should be surprised on here, Thomas.
Are you kidding me?
I don't have any belief in the Bears, and the Packers look terrible. Now, granted, Minnesota was good, but the Packers look terrible. As much as I had issues, I have backed Aaron Rodgers his entire career. Aaron Rodgers looked like he didn't take the offseason or preparation seriously at all and doesn't even give a care. It feels like Aaron is just there for a paycheck, and he didn't go to try and find another team because he doesn't care about winning anymore. He just wanted the money. He was like, you know what? You didn't give me what I wanted. I'm going to take your money, and I'm not even going to try to win you a Super Bowl. I'm just going to go ahead and go out here and do what I got to do.
In his defense, he and Shailene Woodley did break up. So that could be playing some emotional damage. Okay.
So this is a hard one for me. Now, it's a hard one for me. I think because the Packers are still a more talented team top to bottom, and because Aaron Rodgers can do enough, I'm going to give it to the Packers and pick here, but I'm not going to be surprised at all if the Bears win this game. So give me the Pack, but won't be surprised the other way.
22-5. 22-5 against the Bears. That's his record.
I hear 5. That's 5 too many.
All right, so
6 coming.
All right. I'll see it when I believe it. All right, Justin Fields, go for it. If he proves me wrong, sure, I'll bet against the Packers the next 15 weeks and lose my own personal money. Give me the Packers. Give me the Packers.
Christian, I sense where you're going with this, but go ahead and tell us.
The spread is 10 points.
In Lambeau, by the way.
Yes. I'll say this, Kyle. It was a struggle for me. It is a struggle for me because I do think The Packers did not look good. I think this is a down year. Everything we said.
7 points.
I will be taking the Bears on the spread. I will be taking them +10. But overall, just picking it straight up, I'm gonna take the Packers. I do think the Bears have a core. I think they have a core that they're gonna build with. And the fact that Nagy's gone is encouraging. But for this game, this early in the season, I'm gonna take the Packers.
All right, Mike.
I'm going Packers. I have no reason why. Just this is who I'm going with.
All right. Let's go. Another NFC North team taking on NFC East. The Vikings traveling to Philly and playing the Eagles. Eagles looked pretty good against. Oh, that's right. They played Detroit. So
okay against
Yeah.
Detroit is pretty much below average.
I will say that Jalen Hurts impressed me a little bit more than I thought he was. So, and he has some weapons there. So I have a little bit more faith now in Philly. But that Vikings team, that Vikings defense looked really, really good. And that Vikings offense, it's not on Kurt to have to try and win the game or put the ball in his hand and make something happen. As long as he's a game manager and is just being consistent, they're going to do just fine. And I think against a team like Philly that's not super deep in a lot of areas is going to be inconsistent. I'm going to take the consistency and that defense over the Eagles. So give me the Vikings.
So before I get into the game, did you guys see that they're doing this a couple times this year? There's 2 Monday Night Football games.
Yeah.
And so the first one's 7:15. This one's an 8:30 game on ABC. So we have a Monday night game on ESPN and ABC, and these will kind of overlap a bit, which is strange. So
I love that Monday Night Football is back on national primetime.
Well, so who gets where Buck and Aikman get which game?
Probably the ABC. I'd assume
Probably
the ABC. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd assume.
Okay. So as far as the game itself, Kyle, I think you're spot on with the Vikings there. Just bringing in the Rams scheme with O'Connor and with KOC now as a coach, and the way that they use Jefferson and moving him around the field, he's this year's Cup. He's this year's Cooper Cup, and I wouldn't be surprised if he puts 2,000 yards up this year. That offense is going to be really hard to stop, and if Philly let that Lions offense kind of run all over them, and coming into the year, everybody thought that Philly's defense was vastly improved. Derek Barnett tears his ACL in week 1. That's a big loss. Give me the Vikings. I know Philly's a tough place to play, obviously in Philly, in prime time. That will be tough, and Kirk in primetime games doesn't have a good track record. But I just think that offense, like you said, is not always on him, and I think it's a different team this year. So give me the Vikings.
All right, Christian.
Yeah. I love the Vikings team this year. I mean, again, for all the reasons that you guys said, I love the Vikings team this year. I think they could be the team going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC.
My
I don't
new
know.
team and Kirk Cousins.
No, not your new team. The team that you're now a fan of.
Yes.
No. That
you are supporting, that you are rooting for this year.
Such a bandwagon fan, Kyle. They're going to the Super Bowl.
That being said, I mean, the Eagles did massively improve this year. People are high on them, and I think they're going to come out and make a statement early in the season that they're here. And I think they're going to get the win at home. I think that's going to fade off later in the season, and there's going to be some issues come playoff time. But I'm going to take the Eagles at home in primetime to make a statement.
All right, Mike.
I'm going with the Vikings.
All right.
Wow,
strictly because of Kirk Cousins.
Games. Clean sweep.
Kirk Cousins. Unfortunately, now, Christian, you're separating with Thomas there. Now leads me with all picks with Thomas. So Thomas, I really hope you're not repeating last week, and that pick right there moves me forward to get a little bit of a distance here on Christian.
I will say last week I was really confident with the picks. This week I'm like, I don't know on a lot of these.
Did I just say Kirk Cameron?
Oh, you said Cousins.
You say Cousins.
I was like, did I just say?
I think I would have caught that. This is not left behind.
I was thinking growing pains, but okay.
So Chargers at Chiefs. So
Thursday night.
Chargers, not Thursday night. That's right, Thursday night game. Chargers look really, really, really good. Like I said they would. And I was right on that one. The Raiders looked good too. Raiders are also a very good team, but I think the Chargers are it's probably Chargers Bills AFC championship game. I think. However, playing at Chiefs on Thursday night, a very young team.
No,
you
want to take the Chargers. Go for it. You want to take them.
Very young team still in the Chargers, playing against a veteran coach team, quarterback team, depth team in Kansas City on Thursday night. I'm still going to give it to Mahomes in this one. I think it's a good game. I think it's going to be fairly close, but I think there's just enough there early in the season for me to not throw everything. I think the Chargers have a couple of hiccups throughout the season. I just think this is probably one of the ones that happen. So for that, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Keenan Allen is probably going to miss this game because of the short turnaround, which is obviously tough. But Herbert did spread out the ball a lot week one. I think nobody had more than 4 receptions, which is a sign of a good quarterback when you can spread the ball around so much.
He didn't throw it to Williams.
I know it sucked, but
I still won. But
Mahomes is a different animal in September. If you look at his numbers, it's like 42 touchdowns to like 5 picks. It's incredible, his numbers in September, and he's probably like 12-1 or something like that. At home, they looked really good week one. Give me Kansas City. Unfortunately, we're all sticking with the same picks here so far, but give me Kansas City.
Yeah, same page. I really like what I saw from the Chargers. Chiefs looked really good. Some of that was Chiefs, some of that was Arizona not being good. But I mean, especially with Mahomes early in the season and everything else. Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs at home.
I still don't like Brandon Staley, by the way. There's something off about. I still need to see him prove it.
Mike, Chiefs are one of your teams. You lived in Kansas City for a while, right? So going to go with the home.
That's right. I'm going Chiefs because I lived there for 3 years. That's right.
Nice.
No other reason.
Barbecue?
Yeah. You know the chips, Kansas City Masterpiece barbecue chips? I've been to the actual restaurant, Kansas City Masterpiece.
Didn't know that was an actual restaurant.
Coincidentally next door to a cheesecake factory, so
That's funny. All right, to wrap it up then, our picks for this week, we have the team that we've talked a little bit about already and the quarterback we talked a little bit about already, Cardinals taking on the Raiders. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I'm pretty confident in the Raiders in this one based on everything we've talked about already, and the Raiders looked really good last week, and being at the Raiders, definitely Raiders.
Devontae Adams is a different animal, and they fed him so much week one. I think they'll have to get over some of those red zone issues, and Derek Carr will fix those turnover issues. I don't think he's going to have 3 interceptions again, obviously. I actually think I'll come back to this game with our picks, our actual betting picks. So I'll tease that, but again, we're all sticking with the same picks, but give me the Raiders.
Yeah,
Christian.
Sticking with the Raiders. I wasn't crazy about their performance last week. I thought I left me wanting more. So that being the case, I think they'll get it together. I think they have a really solid team, but give me the Raiders at least over what this Arizona team is this year.
All right, and then finally, Mike.
Same Raiders.
Wow, clean
shoot,
sweep.
man. Well, we're going to bring in right here.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in Peyton and Jared. So Peyton, Jared, tell us what you have to say.
All right, NFL picks. We got Tampa Bay at New Orleans. I'm going to say New Orleans grabs this. Chicago, Green Bay. Man, I'm just really on the fence with a lot of these. because I like what Chicago did last week. I think Green Bay wins it, though. I think they are a little bit more effective on offense, and I think their defense is not a doormat like they were with Week 1. Minnesota, Philly, I'll go in Minnesota. I think the Vikings are quietly going to have a really good year. Chargers, Kansas City. I love the Chargers this year too, but I got to go with Kansas City. And then Cardinals, Raiders. Cardinals have not shown anything of why they're even going to be good at all this year. So I'm going to go Raiders.
It's going to be a really exciting week for the NFL. I'm just so excited that football's back. It feels great. And so without further ado, we have five games this week that we want to go down the line and pick from here. So I know the guys are going to be picking between Tampa and New Orleans. New Orleans with a big comeback win last week against Atlanta, down 16 in the fourth quarter, wind up pulling that one out. However, I like Tampa to win this one. I know that New Orleans has had success against Tom Brady since he's been in Tampa, but I don't know. I feel like with Jameis there, it's going to take some time for him to really take over the offense. I do believe in Jameis. I think he's probably had some time to develop now with being able to just make sure he's not turning the ball over. I think if he cut that down, that he is a very good quarterback. So I like Tampa to win this game. So that's for the first pick, and then going on to Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay with not a good showing against Minnesota this past week. Chicago with a little bit of a surprise, winning against San Francisco. I know, of course, rookie quarterback, technically his first true season being the starter, Trey Lance. So I know it's going to take him a little bit of time as well. But yeah, that was a really good first week win for Chicago. This is an interesting matchup. I think I'm going to go with Green Bay, though, because Aaron Rodgers has just had their number since he's been the quarterback at Green Bay. So I'm going to go with Green Bay. Then next, we have Minnesota and Philadelphia. Again, as we just mentioned, Minnesota, great first week against the Packers, looked really sharp, especially Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. My goodness, if you had either one of those guys, especially Justin Jefferson, on your fantasy team, you were a happy owner. So I definitely, I really look for Justin Jefferson to have another big week, because Philadelphia's defense gave up 35 points to the Detroit Lions last week. I like Minnesota in this game, though. I think Minnesota is going to be one of those teams to look out for. Could make some noise in the NFC, especially after that first showing by the Rams not looking good against the Bills on Thursday night. So I like Minnesota to win that game. Then we have Chargers and Chiefs. Man, what a great game again with Chargers and Raiders in week 1. I'm still not sure what to think of the Chargers. I think that every year we say, hey, they have all the talent. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL, and for whatever reason, they seem to drop games. But Kansas City looked really good in their first game against Arizona, putting up 44 points, which was a league high. So this is a tough one as well. But I mean, with it being an Arrowhead, I am going to say Kansas City. However, if the Chargers were to go out with a victory in Kansas City there, that might be the turning of the tide for them to possibly take over that division, finally take it over from Pat Mahomes. And then lastly, we have Arizona and Las Vegas, the Raiders, which, as we just talked about both of these teams in our previous matchup there, Arizona looked really bad against Kansas City. And Las Vegas, they looked okay. Derek Carr had 3 interceptions. He definitely was looking for Devontae Adams, had a very productive week. I think he wound up having the 3rd most receiving yards in the league this past week in week 1. So I'm looking for Las Vegas to get a win here, though, at home. I think that they'll start the season 1-1, and Arizona is going to already be in a danger zone at 0-2, I think. They just did not look good in week 1. So I'm looking for the Raiders to win in that matchup. And then for my Jets pick this week, I know that we're playing the Browns, and I feel fairly confident that we can actually come out of there with a win. I know week 1 we only scored 9 points, but hey, we actually put up yardage. We were in the top 10 for total yards put up this week, so that's something you can hang your hat on. We actually are moving the ball well. We just had too many turnovers. So defensively, we looked good too against a very good Ravens offense with Lamar Jackson at the helm. So it feels like we can finally turn a corner. I think this would be a huge win for the Jets to see about starting the season 1-1, not being out of it too early. So I like the Jets in our matchup against the Browns. But yeah, that's our NFL picks for the week. Look forward to seeing everyone next week. Y'all have a good night.
All right, and there you have it. So that's our picks of the week. We'll have to see how this all fares out. Again, it's up and running, close at the top there between myself, Peyton, and Christian, all at 4-1. Thomas, you got some work to do.
We're going 5-0 this week, baby.
I think maybe you're just gonna kind of, me and you have all the same picks, so I guess just ride with me here, and we'll keep going. And you'll bring yourself up a little bit. So,
Appreciate it.
All right. So let's move into then our pick locks for the week, for our bet lines. So I'm going to go with the college football one first. We'll go our college football, and we'll come right back to our NFL. Mostly because I need a second to still decide on NFL, because I'm second guessing what I originally had based on our conversation so far. So for this week, I am going to go with what I mentioned when we were talking college football previously, in that Georgia-South Carolina game. The Georgia-South Carolina game matchup currently is at a over-under for 52.5 points. Again, because the score from Georgia-Oregon was 49.5. I have every reason to believe that Georgia can put up the same amount of points again in this game. And I'm guessing that they're probably not going to hold a team to 3 points again. So based on that, I feel pretty confident in taking the over there. I know it's an insane amount of points. It burned me last week by taking a similar line with Michigan playing Hawaii and a no name on there. But I'm going to ride my money again on this. I'm going to put my dollar on it and see where it goes. So, give me Georgia, South Carolina to go over 52.5. Thomas, what is your college?
I am going off the beaten path here, and this line stuck out like a sore thumb to me. And this is the Iowa versus Nevada game. Christian, you might have saw this then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Minus 23 is the line for Iowa. Give me Nevada all day long, baby. Plus 23 points. That means they think Iowa is going to score over 20 points? Yeah, over 20 points?
Iowa has scored 14 points, only one of them a touchdown in 2 games.
Goodness.
I agree. That's a good one.
The over-under is 39 points. And for the spread to be 23 on an over-under that low, come on. No way. Nevada plus 23 all day.
I'm staying – that I saw that line and I was like, I am not touching that for anything. Do you know who Nevada lost? Do you know who Nevada lost to last week?
It was UIW. A little bit of incarnate word.
Yes, by 14 points.
Hey now. They're going to lose, but Iowa's not scoring over 27 points.
I had really quickly before I go into mine. From that game, I liked the Iowa State game. I liked the under, but I was like, you know what? I trust Iowa State more than Iowa, but it's also at Iowa, so I don't know about the money line. So how about Iowa team total was under 21, and I was like, beautiful,
amazing.
I was I was horrified after that score so quickly, and then they did nothing, and that was amazing.
Iowa's
That being the
defense is
case,
so good, but as good
What?
as their defense is, their offense is so bad.
so bad.
I don't think there's ever been more of a polarity in college football that I've ever seen between an offense and a defense on the same team, because it's ridiculous.
It's insane. Kyle, just as this is my first time on the show this this football season.
Whatever you want.
Okay, so can
Whatever
it
you
be
want. Sure.
beautiful?
Yeah.
Any
perfect.
college line whatsoever.
Okay, well it's 2 lines, but
Do it. Parlay it. Tease it.
we're
Yep.
teasing it. We're teasing
You
it.
can parlay anything
I-
wherever you want to take it.
I love this so much. So I'll break down each leg. First leg is going to be App State. We're teasing it down from 12.5 to 6.5 over Troy.
Good number.
I got it down below the touchdown. Initially, I was looking at the line. I was like, I think Troy could be sneaky. Like App State, they're going to get some extra value. People are going to be on them after the win next week. I kind of like Troy. I then looked at the numbers, and that told me a completely different story. App State owns Troy. Let me just go through the last couple of years real quick. 2018, App won 21-10. 2019, App won 48-13. 2020, 47-10. 2021, 45-7.
Oh, I bet that game last year too.
Yeah.
I bet that. Won it.
They own Troy. Absolutely own them. It's game day for the first time ever in Boone. Boone is an insane place by itself. Adding game day, that is going to be nuts.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so give me App State. They're under the touchdown at 6.5. The other leg, UAB, we're teasing that down from 11.5 to 5.5. So getting it down under a touchdown. They're playing Georgia Southern. I think that is the perfect buy low, sell high spot. At Georgia Southern, I do not think is that good. I think they got to win against Nebraska. Good job. They fired their coach. And UAB, I'm still high on. I think that Liberty defense is just really good. They probably didn't prepare fully. UAB's at home as well. I think that line should be around 17 points. I think because of the last week, we get it at 11.5. We bring it down to 5.5.
I like that.
I absolutely love that. I already have it locked in. I think the lines are going to move up. You won't be able to tease it to under a touchdown soon enough. So that is my play. App State minus 6.5, UAB minus 5.5. Lock it in.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And for our listeners and our viewers, that was a hotly contested debate yesterday within our group chat over whether or not Georgia Southern deserved any votes. We won't name the person who was saying that, but he's a big Clemson fan. His name rhymes with arid effers. Christian and I disagree with Jared quite a bit there on that. Just because they beat Nebraska didn't deserve to give them any love for votes, and I don't think it deserves to get them any love to help that spread. So I'm with you. I'd take Georgia Southern to cover that. That's our
UAB, yeah.
to cover that.
I mean, both of those, I'd take the team straight up to cover them. But getting to bring those numbers down, beautiful.
All right. So that I'm guessing, Mike, you don't have any of these. You just learned what some of this was last week. So thanks for being a witness.
I'm gonna guess my weight's gonna be over, and my drinking is gonna be under.
So I know I did not do well in my college pick last week. I honestly do not remember my NFL pick last week because I was so bad in my college one. I even forgot what I did, and I didn't put anything on it. So maybe you listen to me on this one, maybe don't. But I'm going to turn to my team that I am on strike against and the money line for this game. So Cincinnati is a 7.5 point favorite over the Dallas Cowboys at Dallas currently right now.
You can get a ticket for $25, by the way.
That's crazy. You get a
At
ticket to a Dallas
Jerry
game that cheap. That's nuts. That's See, I'm not the only one who's on strike. That shows that. It is a fan thing. Strike.
In comparison, The cheapest ticket for Jets Cleveland is $50. So
Yeah. See.
yeah.
See. More
Yep.
reason to go on strike against the Cowboys than against the Jets. You at least have some hope. Bengals, while they lost last week, and while come on, blank on quarterback's name real quick here. Help me out. Joe Burrow. While Burrow had definitely some interceptions and looked
Five
shaky.
total turnovers.
5 total.
Yep.
While the Cowboys defense is definitely good, I don't think that repeats. I think Cincinnati is still a definite major power in the AFC. And I don't trust Dallas. That Cincinnati defense is also very good. I don't trust Dallas to be able to keep up even remotely. I think this game is that spread's covered by halftime. Give me the Bengals to cover that all day. I'd probably say by at least 2 scores. That's my lock. I'm just going to go straight up on that one too.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Oh, my pick now?
Your pick, yep. Sorry.
All right, let's do it.
Dead air time.
My pick, the guy who went 1-4 last week, was bound to have a rebound.
How'd you do in your locks here though?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
No, well, at college I picked Baylor, which was a terrible loss in overtime. But I forgot what I did to the NFL too. I totally forgot. I don't remember what I picked for the lock, but I have an even better lock this week. So you should take this one. This one is 100% hitting. We're going back to I said I was teasing it earlier. I wanted to go back to that Vegas Arizona game where the spread is 6 for the Vegas Raiders at home, but I'm not taking the spread. I thought about doing a tease here, Christian, where you could tease Vegas down to a pick'em with the over and get that down to 44. However, I'm just going to go straight up over 51.5. I like Vegas, like you said, to be able to right the ship here. They scored 19 points against a better Chargers defense. They won't have 3 turnovers. They'll be able to have a little bit more balance on offense. Arizona's coming off a 44-point showing against the Chiefs. And I think Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler will be better as far as offense. I think they'll be able to click a little bit better. Maybe Rondell Moore is going to be back. I think this is just going to be an old classic shootout that'll fly over that 51.5. Both teams most likely get to 30 points here.
All right. I like it.
I like that. Yeah, I like
Christian,
that a lot.
do you have another parlay here for us?
And no, I don't. I was struggling to figure something out with the NFL. A lot of these lines are pretty good. And week 2, honestly, college football and NFL, week 2 is a week to really be cautious with. I mean, because of all their overreactions and everything else. So I was looking at a few. Steelers at even money interest me. But I don't want to overreact to them, especially if Najee Harris is out.
I have one other one that I hope you're going to pick up on. I hope you pick up on it.
We'll see. Commanders and Lions was interesting as well. Like the Lions are really good with the backdoor, but they're also favored there. Commanders had that win, but it was the last minute. Anyways, I'm going to the other Monday night game. Bills versus Titans. Give me Bills -10. That number is pretty big. But I think that Bills defense is looking even better than last year. I think they're going to eat Tannehill alive. Derrick Henry is good. I don't think he's the same Derrick Henry anymore. And this Titans team, I know a lot of people have said it. So coming into the season, I don't think they're the same Titans team either. So going on the road to Buffalo in a Monday night game, it's a lot of points, but give me a Buffalo -10.
All right. So I'll tell you the other one real quick that I thought maybe you would have picked up on. I think that Indy -4 against the Jags. While I understand Indy didn't amaze, I still think Indy is a lot better than -4. A little bounce back. That one stood out to me a lot that I was real close on biting on. And who knows, maybe Peyton or Jared pick up on that one as well too. We'll see what they have to say.
I have a bonus. This is a football podcast. Christian's going to like this.
Let's hear it.
Man City -2 tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, no.
Man City -2 tomorrow.
That will absolutely hit.
That will be on my card tomorrow. There will be real money.
I remember my pick from last week. I had Cowboys, Bucks over whatever it was, and was I way off on that?
Last thing I'll say, this is just kind of interesting. So, a lot of the times, Kyle, just to like give you some insight, Thomas, you're probably a little bit more aware. So you can take anytime goal scorer in soccer. Most of the time, I mean, you're getting pretty good plus money. The best players will be like plus 125, plus 150.
Yep.
So up.
Are we back?
Man City has a guy that they brought in, Erling Haaland. He is literally the Terminator. He's so many different things. His game last week, he was minus 350 to score a goal.
It's like Aaron Judge hitting a home run.
Aaron Judge to hit a home run is like plus 200 normally. Like I saw that and I was just like, what in the world? So yeah, I like that City -2.
All right, and there's your European football mix. American football podcast, dang it. You guys keep on sneaking soccer into it.
It'll slowly take over.
Well, this was a great show, y'all. I mean, we covered a lot in the last.
Mike's sleeping over there.
Mike is sleeping over there in the last 2 hours and 45 minutes. Now, this show will be broken up into segments this week. That is going to be something we're going to try moving forward. So be looking for those segments. But hey, if you listened to the whole show and got through the end, thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate you listening to the Illegal Contact podcast.
They don't call us the Joe Rogan of football for nothing.
That is exactly right.
I was gonna say I barely stuck with us.
With a little less profanity. So again, thanks for your listening. Thanks for your support. If you have not already and you are watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe button. We would love to let you know what's going on, and even click that dinger of a bell so you know when we're going to be posting these videos. It'll be coming out on Spotify this week as well too, so be listening for that. And we will be back again. Look for us on Thursday morning next week with the episode posting. Again, this is the Illegal Contact Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening.